This meeting of the Lee County Board of Commissioners will now come to order. Welcome, everybody. We will start with Doc Odom, who's going to give us the invocation. Then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is for all of us to bow for a moment in memory of those who are suffering and due to the storm that came through here Saturday. So if you will, bow with me for just a moment of silence. Lord God, our Savior, we come to you again today in prayer, asking you to remember us in your mercy. Today, Lord, we have so many people who are hurting. Their lives have been turned upside down. Lord, we pray for help and guidance to get us through this great tragedy. We pray for all who are suffering and in need of help. Lord, we ask you to open our hearts that we might be your servant for those who were in the path of Saturday's disaster. Lord, you sent us a wake-up call. Lord, you said, knock and the door will be open. Ask and you will receive. Lord, we know you never give us more than we can endure. And we know that you keep your word. We thank you for not forgetting us. Help us in our suffering, Lord. We know your love is never ending. We put our hope and trust in you, our rock and our salvation. We thank you for your love and mercy. We pray in our Lord's holy name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I do have a couple of changes to the agenda for today. The joint public hearing with Lee County Planning Board has been postponed, so that is off the agenda. And before public comments, we're going to have a storm update and information that leads us into transitioning into the next phase of this from Shane Seagroves and John Crumpton. And I would like to recognize some special guests we have in the audience. Representative Stone, glad you're here. And over the weekend, I think we had almost all of our congressional and state delegation and governor were all in the county, so they're all there, working with us. Are there any, other than the changes I just gave, are there any other changes to the agenda?
Just for clarification, Madam Chairman, we'll be discussing several items that will probably require board action under the storm update. So we have a clarification of our proclamation of state of emergency that we need to discuss. We need to discuss a pre-event contract for disaster debris management, which we've been working on to get ready for the hurricane season. But we had something else happen, and now we need to get this contract in place. So we will be seeking board action during that part of the agenda.
So after your updates, you'll be asking us for some.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? I need a motion to approve the agenda with the changes.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved as amended. Consent agenda. Any commissioners have any questions on any of the items in the consent agenda?
You got one on the item D,
Okay.
purchasing of the equipment. I like what you pulled and have it for discussion.
Okay. So we need to pull item D from the consent agenda and add it as item H under new business.
That'll work for me.
Also, Madam Chairman, item E, just clarification there on if that's a reduction in our cost.
Yes, sir.
That's all I need. Okay.
Madam Chair, on item G, are you going to provide us any kind of discussion about the changes that were made in that resolution? Or are we just going to vote to approve it as amended?
Right now, it's in the consent agenda, so, John, do you want to?
Actually, since we made a change, we probably need to pull it
Okay.
and discuss it. And we can make that aye, if my alphabet is right.
Okay, so pull item G off of the consent agenda is added as item I under new business. What's left of the consent agenda? Any other questions? Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, and next is the tornado update. And before we get you started, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I think there's some heartfelt thank yous and appreciation need to be extended, beginning with the emergency responders, the volunteer fire departments, the Sanford Fire Department, Shane and his team, Bill, Roger, Mike, Nancy is the glue that holds you guys together, I'll add. And to Sheriff Carter and his crew who've been working around the clock. Our Department of Social Services and Health Department who have manned the emergency center over at Sandley, literally day and night. To all of the many volunteers that have donated food, supplies to the shelter and to those working off-site. I will say also that our general services, Mr. Spivey has had some of his people there at the Emergency Operations Center. Our clerk, Gaynell, gave up most of her weekend to be there for administrative tasks. And I'm sure there's a lot of others that I haven't personally thanked, but all those that were involved. Now, last but not least, I do want to thank our county manager. And what we've witnessed this weekend is the importance of steady, strong, experienced leadership. And I witnessed that firsthand. So, John, I thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
All right, now it's your turn on the agenda.
Well, Shane and I decided we tag team this, so Shane, come on up. We also need to thank the surrounding counties and municipalities and the folks that came up from Charlotte and Greensboro. So many people to thank. I made a call this morning to Moore and Chatham counties for building inspectors to help us with permitting and inspection of homes, and they've offered inspectors from 3 municipalities and the 2 counties to help us. So we're getting a lot of help from a regional basis, and it's quite impressive, everything that's going on. So, but we're just getting started. I was asked today how long I thought the recovery would take, and for some people who completely lost their homes, it could take up to a year. So, this is going to be a long process, and we're going to review kind of quickly where we've been over the last 48 hours, and it's hard to believe it's only been 48 hours. As much as we've been going at it, but it's just as important the next 48 to 72 hours to make sure we get headed in the right direction for the recovery. So I'll let Shane start with some of the photos that we wanted to show about the damage.
Before you start, let's do a formal introduction of yourself. We just know you're Shane.
I'm Shane Sigros, I'm Director of Emergency Services for Lee County. We have the Fire Marshal's Office and Emergency Management. Before I even get into this, one of the first things I'd like to say, I'd like to reiterate what you said. John has been with me step for step since I was soaking wet on Saturday afternoon. And I have been in emergency services in the county since I was 15, so y'all can do the math, I'm 40. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I can say that it's probably the first time that I've ever seen a manager of any kind stay with somebody step for step. I know that you've been through a lot of stuff in your lap in the last 48 hours. I'm sure you've learned a lot in the last 48. I've learned a lot in the last 48 hours. But thank you for your help and your support over the last couple of days. Our emergency services in this county, we pick and we play. We have differences of opinion, but in the moment of need, everybody comes together. I can say this, there's been no squabbling, there's been no fuss, there's been people helping people. Nobody's asked when we're going home. Nobody's asked when the next meal's coming. It's, what do we got to do next? So, hats off to them. They've done a great job. Talked about all the federal and state people who've been out there. There's nothing that we have asked for that we've not received. And between myself and Sheriff Carter and our staff, nothing short of parking a battleship at Sandley Park, we can get anything we need here with a phone call. We've been able to call the state, if the sheriff needs something, he's asked me, we've got it, and vice versa. So hats off to that. But I think the people that deserve more appreciation and really the bigger pat on the back than anybody out here working for me, it's the people involved in it.
Amen.
I've been deployed to a lot of disasters over my career, out of state and in state, both weather, snow, fires. I'm proud to be from North Carolina. I was born in Lee County. I'm proud to have been raised here in Lee County, because one of the things that I saw over the last 2 days is neighbors helping neighbors, and that's the conversation that the governor and I had yesterday afternoon, standing on the apron at the old airport. And, she was asking, what do we need? Well, we need help. We need that declaration, and that needs to be first and foremost, because we're going to need aid here. But the thing that prides me is that the neighbors are helping neighbors. I mean, there's always going to be a bad apple here and there, and there's been very few of those, and we've been fortunate. But nobody's standing out there with their hand out saying, what are you going to do for me next? They're going house to house working. And the outpouring of people that we've had coming into the county, not just from North Carolina, I mean, upstate Virginia, Tennessee, it's coming in, and it has become a major job just to manage that. But we've got a lot of help, and people do care. And I guess that's one of the important things. So I'm going to get through this. Just a few little facts and figures. We all know, and I know that's going to be hard to see, but this storm started Saturday around 3 o'clock. I will say that in my career, this is the first time I've ever sit on radar and watched a tornado from start to finish. This tornado formed about 5 miles southwest of Carthage. It moved into Carthage, and it stopped. It didn't touch down. It was just basically sitting over Carthage. Then all of a sudden sped up. When it crossed our county line on the radar I was looking at, we had the first call from the Sheriff's Department that the funnel cloud had been spotted. And it touched down. We initially thought the first touchdown was actually in St. Andrews, but it didn't. It actually touched down there on Eakes Road close to Quail Ridge Golf Course. Thanks to Chief Butler and the Sheriff's Department, we all got to take an aerial view of it today. Very enlightening. I've seen pictures that were taken the other day on our first flyover, but words can't describe the amount of damage we have in this county. When you see it from a bird's eye view at 1,000 feet, there's a lot more damage out there than FEMA, us, or anybody else imagined. This storm quickly moved across our county. It went approximately 10.5 miles on the ground, and it's like it would pick and choose. It would skip over our house, it'd knock the house down next to it. One of the things, I don't know if y'all saw it today when you're up there, the rock quarry out there, the berm that's built, that berm probably saved us from having massive fatalities. The tornado hit the berm and bounced over a trailer park, completely missed it, touched down on the other side of it, and then continued on its destruction. When it come into the housing development of St. Andrews, we know the results there. I mean, we have a lot of devastation. In total, we have 61 homes in Lee County that are completely gone. There's nothing left but a foundation. And that could be anything. I've seen them where there's nothing but the brick pillars stand up in the center of the floor. We've been seeing a house that from the air, the hardwood floors are like it's never been touched, like it's clean, and the house is gone. So it's very devastating, but it moved across and it hit some industrial facilities on Industrial Drive. Static Control took a hit on their buildings. That's going to be hard for them to recover from. So we've got a lot of employees down there. I think one of the biggest things that, one of the bigger things with us, you think about Lowe's Home Improvement on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. First of all, I don't know why I wasn't there, because that seems to be where I'm at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoons every week. But the store was packed, just like normal. One of the managers saw it coming. They went to the store, started hollering for people to get in the back of the store, and we didn't have a single fatality there. That's a miracle in itself. The storm continued on across. It got the corner of the J.T. Davenport property. It hit the bypass. It took some houses out there. It continued on. And I guess really the last physical damage we see is at the horse farm out on Avens Ferry Road. And that's a beautiful place out there. And I mean, it's just complete destruction. It moved across the county very quickly. We organized very quickly, and we didn't stop until about midnight on Sunday night. Everybody got them some rest last night, and everybody looked ready to go this morning. So we've continued on. But The tornado touchdown, we've already gone through that. Crossed the county and it exited the county on the river, just east of the Progress Energy coal plant, and it continued on. Now, if you think about tornadoes, normally they'll come down, they'll do a little bit of damage, and they're gone. This one didn't. It stayed on the ground and went all the way up through Wake County and actually went into downtown Raleigh. We got residential and commercial properties. We had 60 structures totally destroyed, and then you see the number 51 with major damage. Well, you know, if you're at home and somebody throws a baseball through your window, you consider that major damage. But major damage for our USAR teams who were evaluating these structures, that's houses that had no roof, completely it's gone. So that's considered major damage. 52 with moderate damage. Moderate damage means there was a wall missing of some kind somewhere in that house, so they've had a wall blown out. And then there were 109 with minor damage, and that could be anything from the shingles missing off the roof to, you know, windows and doors knocked out. We did have 2 fatalities. One was in a vehicle down Rocky Ford Church Road, and the other was in a house over close to Rice Road, Thomas Road area. We've had 3 reported injuries that they considered serious injuries that were treated at the hospital, and one of those is still in critical condition. There were 15 to 20 people treated in the parking lot of Lowe's for flying glass and debris, but none of those required treatment as far as, you know, transferring them to the hospital. We talk about infrastructure. Progress Energy at their peak had 12,000 people without power Saturday afternoon. They currently are down around 500. They're down to the process that it's 1 and 2 houses at a time that are on the end of a line. Central Electric had a peak of 1,000 outages. We were at 852 today when I talked to Commissioner Park, and I think it was about 5 minutes later she called me back and said we're at 24. So they've got the power back up and running. Our water system was never compromised. They did lose the power. They had to go to a backup generator, so that reduces the amount of pressure they can produce, but at the end of the day, we were still okay with that. We've got our tanks, our above ground tanks, so that was fine. Ongoing issues, search and rescue for us, that was a big thing on Saturday, and really into the day-to-day. The path of the storm, we've searched that entire path 3 times. From what we saw in the air today, we're going to do it again. There's a lot of houses out there that we didn't even know had received any damage. There's some out there that are completely destroyed, they're off the beaten path. So that's going to require another evaluation. That's a slow process. That first one was real quick. We call it a hasty search. You're basically hollering for people, looking, you keep going. The second one was very intense. Even in the houses that collapsed, we had people there crawling around in the debris. I don't know if you've heard, we had a 18,000 gallon bulk tank for LP gas on the farm that has been leaking since the storm happened. That scene is under control, and that's over with now. The residents have been allowed to go back. We're going to continue structural evaluations throughout the county. Building inspections is working on that. Also, the state and FEMA will have their damage assessment team come in here and put an actual real dollar figure with the amount of damage we have. Hazmat remediation, if you've seen on the news or if you've been around any, we've got cars and vehicles upside down in lots of places. We've got tractor trailers upside down that has lost fuel, so that's going to be ongoing, getting those sites cleaned up. We've got a lot of buildings, structural stability evaluated. Our pilot today in the helicopter was talking about they went to a building yesterday that was a big storage warehouse. No damage visible to the warehouse, but yet the pressure from the tornado when it passed was so great that it stretched the building. And you can go in there and look at the roof, and it actually picked it up and like pushed it up in the center of the roof. So those are things we may find here still on buildings that, you know, hadn't got any visible damage. And like I said, we'll continue to work on going through our structures. And now really we shifted, I would say lunchtime today was probably our shift to going into recovery, which actually recovery really started on Saturday. You know, that's getting people food, that's getting people drinks, that's getting people ice. But we're kicking it into high gear now on the recovery side. Our VOAD is active. That's a real big,
Okay,
yeah, it's Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. And, you know, that's one of those acronyms you see when you go to classes, and you're like, well, we'll ever have to have that. Well, we do. And United Way, Michelle Bullard is assisting us with that, and Lisa Price. That's going to be big. It's already gotten big. Their phones have rang off the hook all day, both for requests and for people offering assistance.
Is that Red Cross and not United Way?
Yes. No, Lisa Price with DSS is assisting with that, and then Michelle with United Way. And she helps Abby. She's kind of a backup for Abby. So Michelle's really been a jack of all trades since Saturday. So she's bounced back and forth between United Way and the Red Cross. I don't think she knew what she was volunteering for this morning when she got her assignment. Definitely. We did open a shelter. We made that call very quickly on Saturday because it was obvious we were going to have people displaced. We had 27 people in there the first night. DSS, Red Cross, and the health department did an excellent job. The school system provided us with school resource officer from start to finish, and that's been good. I mean, they've been there every step of the way for anything they needed, so that's been good. We did shut our shelters down today. It gets to a point in which it's not cost effective to keep a shelter open. So everyone has somewhere to go. We had one person in the shelter this afternoon is actually going to a nursing home so she can kind of get back stabilized. We've established a warehouse. Central Carolina Community College pretty much offered up the Emergency Services Training Center, and as you saw today, and anyone else has been out there, we've taken over that place, and it has worked out great. The space that we have out there has really helped us be very efficient in what we're doing. But we've started a warehouse out there, so we've got water, basically perishable items and some non-perishable items, and just stuff to help out. Our ESC has been open. We actually started it in our mobile command post at the scene on Saturday. And if you go back to Saturday, if you remember, we had Broadway our way. So our mobile command post was set up in Broadway there at the Tiny Tots building. It took us 2.5 hours to get that bus to the scene because everywhere they went, there was a tree down or there was a power line down. Roger Milliken called me about 45 times, I think, in 2.5 hours trying to get me to get him there. He ended up going all the way to 27 down to Johnsonville to be able to get back around to us. It was tough Saturday. We have phone systems established at our temporary EOC, so that's up and running. And then one other thing, in our GIS department, they're second to none. Don Kay has got a good group of people over there. Don's on vacation. Gene Hathaway, he stepped right up to the plate, and he's done a great job helping us. North Carolina was supposed to be flown today, just part of their contract. They'd come in and do the ortho photos for North Carolina. The pilot, the company saw what was going on here, called the office and spoke with Gene this morning and asked if we would do like a high resolution shot of the entire path of the tornado. So along with him doing his normal flights, they dropped down and they're going to give us a detailed overhead view of the entire path of the tornado, which that's good. It helps for our records management. It also will help FEMA when they start working on picking these structures out. As you know, from being up in the air today, there's a lot of structures damaged that we didn't know were damaged, haven't been reported to us. We'll be able to look at that map and see a real-time, real-life photo, basically, of the incident. That's going to be very helpful as we go forward from this point. And let me show you. And of course, we had to have a few pictures.
Can we dim the lights a little bit? Is everybody having as much trouble seeing as I am, or?
I can't really see it either.
That's
There we
good
go.
call.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody can see it now, hopefully. This is basically the same shot that you've seen on WRAL. The shot was taken this afternoon at 2:30. That's Lowe's Hardware. And as you can see, the tornado went across the corner of the facility. I'll show up on there. And then it got that house. There was some damage there to that house. It's adjacent to the property. The parking lot's relatively clean now. They've had cleanup crews in there removing the vehicles from the parking lot. But I mean, they were tossed around like toys out there. Actually, there was a car sitting up there in the fire lane, and the wall collapsed on that car. This is one of those things that people being in the right place at the right time, because you can imagine what was going on with the fire departments when all this was happening. There was a crew from out of the state training at our training center, rescue training. They had a truck there with rescue equipment, and they were doing heavy lift training where they pick up trucks, lift walls, do this kind of thing. They saw the tornado pass the training center. They jumped in their truck and chased that tornado to see what they could do, and that's where they landed at. So when our fire truck pulled up from the city of Sanford, they pulled up and like, where are these people from? I think they were from They were not from outside. They were from, I think, Salisbury. They were there cutting the guy out of the car. They got the wall off them, lifted it up, cut the roof off of it, and this gentleman stood up and walked out of the car, wasn't injured. So that's another one of those miracles. And I could stand here all night telling you about the miracles we've heard over the last 48 hours. That's the Thomas Farm. Excuse me, that's not the Thomas Farm. That is the horse farm on 42. What you see in the center of the picture was a great big arena that had a nice white metal roof on it. And you can see it's completely gone. The barn over there is gone. I mean, the tornado, when we were flying up today, that kind of was up on a knoll, so it was up high, and you could just see it sticking out there, and the tornado come right across the property. We back up to the beginning of the storm. That's the Thomas Farm off Castleberry Road. You see all the bulk barns down there. All that debris you're seeing out in the water and in the field, that's bulk barns. And then there was also the LP tank that we had flipped. Mr. Thomas has got a very, very large loss there. There was tractor trailers that were tore up, tractors, combines, and then all his bulk barns. That's back over to St. Andrews, and that was the fun thing about the trees. They're all snapped off at about the same height, no matter where you went. So you can just see the devastation. That's one of the static control buildings off Industrial Drive in Juneau. And you can see where that looks like there was an addition put on the building. It pretty much peeled the entire roof off that addition. So you know it's a saving grace that this happened on a Saturday with these plants. There's another structure where the roof is completely gone from the vehicle. That's in St. Andrews also. John made mention of the groups coming in from Greensboro and from Charlotte. We have regional response teams in North Carolina as part of our USAR program, and they're pre-positioned around the states because naturally no local jurisdiction could afford to have equipment like that. So they pulled the money together and they put these teams around. Our team that we depend on is in Fayetteville. When all this happened, you know, Fayetteville got hit too. They had some stuff going on in Harnett, so they were already paged out to calls. So they started grabbing them from wherever they could get. And I don't know how they got here as quick as they did, but that team rolled in here from Charlotte and from Greensboro very quick. What you see,
USAR stands for Urban Search and...
Urban Search and Rescue. So they do everything from searching for missing persons in the woods to going in these structures that collapsed. I mean, you name it, they're trained, they're cross-trained in everything. What you see there, that's a bunkhouse. That trailer has 40 bedrooms, little private bedrooms in it, which are like cubes for them. I've never seen anything with that many slide outs. When they were finished with it, it was about probably 25 feet, 30 feet wide with those slide outs on them, but that's where they stayed at. When they're deployed, irregardless, let's just say Lee County was completely wiped out and there was nothing we could do for them, they're self-sufficient when they get there. They have everything they need when they arrive. They've got several trucks that come with it, and crews and support. So they actually can operate on their own without any help. That's just another shot of all the equipment that was staged out at the training center. Scott Brooks with Moore County Emergency Services, they've had their command post here. They've been with us also step for step from the beginning. So he's been a lot of help to us. That's Gaines Trucking on Industrial Drive. That truck was sitting over in the parking lot. It was actually picked up and thrown across the parking lot. And this is one of the spills that I'm talking about. You know, normally if we had something like that, engine company's going to stay there till a cleanup company gets there. So we kind of have to shift gears in a situation like this, and we have to evaluate and prioritize. A fuel leak on concrete wasn't a priority for us on Saturday. Fire department went there, they put some booms and pads down, and we had to go. You know, they had other places they had to be. But that's just the things we're seeing. What you see in the top of the truck is a 4x6 post that drove through the truck and down into the bed and a sleeper in the back of that truck from the wind. Who would ever thought you'd see trailers twisted in half and sit up on top of a building? Those were trailers that were just staged out there, ready to be picked up with loads on them, and they just tossed them around like toys. Another miracle here, this is the duplex apartments that were across from our ball field that got pretty much destroyed at Buchanan Park. It wiped the second floors off of those buildings, no injuries. That's the second floor of a house that was picked up and spun around and sit back down on the back of the house. We've used a classroom out there for operations. CCCC jumped on it this morning, established phone lines for us, connectivity. They've really helped out with us. They've been good to us. Like I said earlier, it didn't matter what the need was. If we called somebody and told them we needed something, we'd get it. You know, we've been getting pallets of stuff out there, drinks, water. One of the things that happened this morning, Landis Phillips come to me and said, Caterpillar just called and said, anything you need, you just ask for it. And I looked at Landis, I said, I need a skid steer loader with forks on it. He said, be right back. Landis was gone about 3 minutes and walked back in. He said, it's on the way. And I was like, well, that's good, that's great. But it's out there for us to use as long as we need it, and that's been very helpful for us. And of course,
Oh, no, you
I had to put this in here just for you. Chief Butler did a great job getting the helicopter back down here. Highway Patrol's been really good to us. They've had people with us the entire event, and they provided a helicopter for us this afternoon to take a flight. And
Pilot there.
she was piloted, backseat driver. So, I hope it gave you a good bird's eye view of what we're facing over the next months, and it's not going to be something that's going to be fixed in a week or two. This is going to be ongoing and very long. And of course, there's the other pilot. He was
He has
smiling.
no
See, I told you there was no door. At 1,000 feet, that's a little freaky.
It was, especially when the wind started blowing you around sideways. He was smiling when he was left, but he was holding on. And the pilot did tell me that you held on a lot of it. I saw some fingerprints, but he was smiling when he came back. There's another shot of just some of the destruction we've seen. And, you know, we still got power lines down everywhere. Progress Energy and Central Electric has been working diligently to make sure that the lines that are down are pretty much, you know, just they're off. In these places like they're leaving it isolated, so we don't have to worry about anybody getting electrocuted. But for the people out there, if you see a power line laying on the ground or suspended, you treat it like it's going to electrocute you if you touch it. So that's very important. That was actually Saturday afternoon when we set our command post up. That was Moore County's command post. I don't even know that ours had gotten there yet, but we quickly outgrew the space there. And there's another shot. And then our EOC, like I said, the support from both federal and state government's been very good for us. Secretary Reuben Young came down today and basically just wanted to know what our needs were with emergency management and if there's anything they could help us with. And they've been very supportive, you know, and they're going through the same struggles we are, but, you know, in a time like this, you know, they don't tell us no. You know, they get us what we need. So, you know, it's good they can come out and help us. And our EOC, and then the governor was here yesterday. I think we were telling her about how good the food's been from the churches where they've been bringing food out there. But it was good to see her there. And, you know, little things like that. You know, you had our BLET group out there. You had some cadets out there. So, you know, it's good to see that, let them see that people do care and that they are there to help us. And that's it. Do y'all have any questions?
Shane, I got one about volunteerism. You mentioned the volunteer organization. I think a lot of questions are coming in from church groups and from volunteer organizations around the state. I know some have already established communications with you and are already out there hard at work, like the Baptist Men's Association. I've noticed them doing a lot of great work in St. Andrews, but other churches are starting to call in now. I know I got a call from the Church of God this afternoon interested in where they send donations and drop foodstuffs. What would you tell the public about where, if they have trailer loads of bottled water or Gatorade or things like that, where they should bring that stuff to, and who they should contact?
They need to call ahead.
Okay.
They can get in touch with our office. We'll schedule it. We'll figure out where we need to put it at, where the need's at for it.
When you say your office, you're referring to the EOC at the...
If they dial our office line, 718-4670.
718-4670.
Repeat that again, Shane.
718-4670.
I'm passing a sheet down to you that we're going to try to get out to the homeowners in the affected areas tomorrow. And on the back, there are some important numbers at the bottom. One is Michelle Bullard is going to set up a 211 information that the people can call. Just pick up 211 questions. We're trying to funnel information to those officers or those operators, so when they answer the phone, they can answer the questions as best they can, and if they can't, then they'll forward those people to the emergency management number, which is on the sheet. People who have issues with any structural issues or building permits or anything like that can call the Sanford Lee County Building Inspections Department. That number's there, and then the American Red Cross is right there for people who need shelter. Information there, since we've closed the shelter at Sam Lee Middle School.
In addition to these numbers that are published, are there any websites or other media that people can go to get answers to questions if they just want to read up on it?
We are starting to place information on our website on the front page. We're also trying to establish links with the state emergency management office. I gave you all a brochure. I forgot mine. It's in the office. It's called disaster recovery assistance guide. We've scanned that and put it on our website, and then we'll be able to give them a better copy when we have the link to the state's website tomorrow. We're also using Dwayne Brinson. I think Dwayne's around here somewhere. Dwayne's starting to post stuff to the county's Facebook account. So you can get information. If you have access to Facebook, you can get it off of Facebook.
One more question about the debris. I know that's first and foremost on a lot of these residential owners' mind. Is it the plan of the county to pre-position or to try to contract for trailers for debris collection? Or what guidance would you give residents in general about their debris?
Get it to the side of the road, not in the road. Get it right away, and then that's one of the things y'all will discuss with the plan. That's all part of the plan. We've been working on that plan with Joe Cherry, city also getting that plan in place. But basically, no, we want pre-positioned trailers.
Okay.
One of the big reasons for that, when this debris comes in, that debris has to be monitored. If it is not, then when it comes time for us to get FEMA reimbursement, if we have a declaration, we're all dead in the water. Those loads, when they come in, let's just say if we set a 40 cubic yard container there, or 20 cubic yard container, and somebody goes there and just puts a lot of laps in it, you don't have a full load there. It gets taken in, you won't get credit for that. Somebody goes there and starts putting white goods in it, we're going to have an issue too, because that has to be separate from your storm debris, construction debris. So there's a lot that goes into getting up debris and being able to transport it and look after that. That's very intense with FEMA. That would be the first thing that we would get thrown out on if we were not taking care of that.
Okay, I've noticed in the neighborhoods that they're commingling the debris right now. If it's possible, is it advisable for them to keep the natural debris from the trees, the limbs separated from
Yes.
the sheet metal and that sort of
Oh,
thing?
most definitely.
Okay.
Actually, they really need to have 3 piles at the street, one for the metal and white goods, one for
Construction.
demolition, construction debris, and then the third pile is the vegetative debris.
Okay, so that'll make it, now if it's commingled for whatever reason, because it just got piled up that way, is it necessary to have to be separated, or can somebody come
They're
along?
going to have to separate it. You
Okay.
can't put those loads in there together. When they start hauling them to our site, they will not be able to do that, so they'll have to be separated.
What we discussed today with FEMA is that the material, some of the material, not all of it, would have to go to a specific site that we've designated, materials evaluated, and then if it can be recycled, it's recycled. If it can be chipped, it will be chipped and used in other ways. And then the last option is landfilling. So,
County residents can put it on the curb now. If it's separated, it'll be picked up.
what we're recommending in the letters, we're going to recommend that they place it at the curb. We don't want it coming to the main convenience centers because that's an expense the county has to bear, and we would not get reimbursed for it. The big problem and the hesitation we have with saying take it to the curb is there's an expectation it's going to get picked up. If the declaration is not made for our county, which I would find really, really hard that it wouldn't happen, but if it didn't happen, those people would be responsible for removing that material from their property. The governor is instructing DOT to get ready to take things off of DOT right-of-ways. So, we're still waiting for that declaration from her. I think Shane may have gotten an email from
Yes.
that, which would make, any DOT maintained roads in the unincorporated areas of the county, that would make that debris removal state's responsibility. Any roads that are not DOT maintained, which are not many in our county, we would probably provide assistance to them to get rid of that material, and then the city will be trying to do an interlocal agreement with us to do the contract with Bird Brothers. I say try. We ran into a snag today with the FEMA people, and we were trying to work through it. We're still trying to work through it with them on how the bids were done with that. Our bid is good, but there was some issue as to whether the city and the town of Broadway were a party to the bid. We made the argument that they're part of the county and therefore a part of the bid, and FEMA wanted to think about that. Of course, the guy we were talking with today is an evaluator. He's not the final decision maker. Once the declaration is made, then you have folks come in who make those decisions and help you guide you through that process. Now, the next thing is, when are we going to be declared a natural disaster area by the president? We were told Thursday at the earliest, but don't count on it. Be patient. There's a lot of damage in the state. There's a lot of assessment that has to be done, and then that's all rolled up to the FEMA offices and then to the president. So hopefully it will be by the end of this week. It might not be.
What's the impact on a resident? Why would they need to know whether or not FEMA has declared it or not?
There's individual assistant issues that would be that they would be eligible for. SBA loans that businesses and individuals would be eligible for. Because right now, really, the only thing they have to fall back on is their homeowner's insurance right now. So, that's the first thing we're telling them to do. If they haven't contacted their homeowner's insurance company or agent, they should have already done it. A lot of policies will cover some of this debris removal and give them temporary living assistance. But some of these folks may be underinsured. They may not, not have insurance. Some of these are older homes that, people may have paid off and lost jobs and may not have been able to afford homeowners insurance. You don't know. So these programs are important to them because it can help those people who don't have the insurance get out of their trouble. So, and then the debris removal is the largest expense that FEMA incurs, and it would be the largest expense we would incur by
If we
far.
don't do it by their criteria, we don't get reimbursed.
That is correct. That's why when you hire someone like Bird Brothers, they have people who do nothing but deal with FEMA on the debris removal, and they're on the hook to get that reimbursement.
Is it a fair statement then that if a homeowner is anxious about the debris that's piled up in their lawn and they hire someone to remove it, even if they keep receipts, they're doing that at their own risk for reimbursement? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
If you hire a contractor, he comes in, he cuts down the trees off of your house, and he says he's going to dispose of it. It's part of his bill, and you can charge that to your homeowner's insurance. You will not be able to charge that to the county. Some people, obviously, based on what I've seen, they've had some work done and they've just left it at the curb. The DOT isn't going to make a designation whether the homeowner did it or the contractor did it, based on what we heard today. But
to be on the safe side,
it's really up to the homeowners right now.
the advice that you would give to the average homeowner in St. Andrews and off of Fraser, these other areas, would be to separate the debris, stack it close to the curb, and be patient for a pickup, and just make sure they stay in close contact with their insurance adjuster on the damage.
That's right. When I went through all the hurricanes down the coast that I had to go through, I was hoping that I would get away from that stuff when I moved inland. Didn't kind of follow me over here. There were times where the debris were out there for months before someone came around and picked it up. 2 to 3 months after Floyd, in a lot of instances. So we live in an instant gratification society, and our biggest issue here is that people will need to be patient. This is a long process. I didn't really understand the magnitude of the damage until I went up in that helicopter today.
One last point that I would ask that you make, Shane, and that's about the power lines and Progress Energy. I know it's really tough for them to work in and around these areas and I know they're doing a great job, them and their subcontractors, getting the poles up and all that, but I see lines are down everywhere, and it's going to be a while getting power reestablished. I guess, what advice would you give the residential tenants that are still living in their homes without power, and then they're also trying to do debris removal in amongst all those power lines? What advice would you give them?
One, with the debris removal, one thing you need to remember, and John touched base on it a little bit, if you hire someone to come in there and clean your property, whether it's cutting trees off or getting up stuff out of your yard, they are responsible to remove it from your property. So legally, them picking it up in their truck and going into your driveway and dumping it, that's not removing it from your property. So that's one of the things that people need to think about when they're doing a contract with somebody for cleanup. And then when we go back to people not having power, candles by far would be one of the most important things. If they've got candles there, they need to be safe. Don't leave them on. Don't leave them burning at night. If they're using generators, hopefully, if they've got a generator at their house, it was wired properly. Going out and taking a drop cord and doubling in a drop cord in your panel and not shutting the main off is dangerous. It will backfeed. The line crews are out there trying to get lines back up. They're going to get shocked. So, that's just as dangerous too. We've had instances, not this time, but in other storms in the past, people putting generators right up against their house and the fumes getting in their house because they had the windows open, especially during, I think it was Fran, we had so much problem with this. Almost lost a family over it. But those fumes are silent killers, carbon monoxide. We actually had a family put one in the basement of their house. And we got called over there. But long story short, keep that in mind. Those generators are great. They need to be worried about keeping the refrigerators cold, trying to keep their food there, but then just be careful with them.
If they have any questions, they really need to call their utility provider right now. If they're concerned about a connection or anything like that, remember, to the meter is the power company's responsibility, and then anything on the other side of the meter is the homeowner's. So, we in the inspection process, those things, they've tried to identify those things before they hit the switch to put you back on, and that's why the numbers are so low right now. If you don't have your power on right now, I would suggest you call them directly anyway.
I was going to say, I talked to a couple of homeowners that had not called the power company or had not made arrangements to call, thinking it was going to be automatic for them to come out and inspect. I would recommend that everyone contact the power company, make sure they got a ticket generated on their home.
Yeah, at this point, that they need to call. That way they'll know for sure. And like we said, there were some areas today, from the air, I didn't have a clue that those areas had been hit. And so we'll have folks back out there tomorrow surveying those areas. And I think you saw that, we don't have any missing person reports right now, which is really amazing considering everything. And we're not getting a lot of reports of people just calling us to say, hey, our house has been damaged, building inspections or anybody. So I would encourage the public, if they have had damage, so that we know that they call the emergency management line. And the line is busy. If they get the answering machine, please leave a message. We will get back with them.
Jay, which area was that you hadn't known about before?
I think the one that caught me by surprise today was East Road out at Quail Ridge. We had not, to my knowledge, we'd not received any information of any houses out there. They were destroyed up on that hill. And then as we flew along, there's houses out that I would say would be kind of a secluded property that no one would see from the road. You go along there and you'll see them, and there's lots of damage. So it's not great big areas. It's just all the 1s and 2 houses on these little private drives. So getting up over it, you can see it, and it makes us aware of us. That's one of the things we're going to go back. So we're going to start working with overlays tomorrow.
Some homes on the backside of Sandley Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
they're
some
way
of those,
back up,
plus out on
way back up in the
42,
woods there.
there was some out there across from the horse farm out there
Yeah.
that I was concerned about, so.
Do we have any environmental concerns that need to be addressed?
The environmental concerns that we had, one being the LP tank, that's been handled. So basically, you had a lot of fire equipment and a regional response team that basically babysat that tank until it got down to the point that it was gone. We had an initial environmental concern with one of the industrial facilities that was damaged. We had hydrogen sulfide in there, and these totes, 200-gallon totes. We had a regional response team come in there, do evaluations on it. Nothing was compromised, no leak. The rest of it is something as simple as a car being turned over with fuel that's run out of or some oil. That's just going to be an ongoing cleanup process from this point forward. Really, we've been very lucky with this. It could have been a whole lot worse. It's bad, but it could have definitely been worse.
How about in the agricultural community or around the residents? Anything we can offer them in terms of to look for?
They just, one of the things, look after your neighbors. If you haven't seen your neighbors around, make some phone calls. If you've got damage at your property, make sure somebody knows it's been damaged, because that's going to be real important in this county, because we really have to have a good picture of how much damage is here, especially when we start getting this declaration, which we've already started on it, but we need to know. And, if some of these homes or these barns or buildings that are off the beaten path, we need to know about those, so we can get the damage assessment teams out there, let them look at it, and then get back to the tax office and get real numbers to put with it. So if you got damage, they need to report it to our office.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of the rural areas that don't have city sewer, with trees falling, if they do any damage to the septic tanks and things like that.
Very possible.
Yeah.
And so if they
They
start
need
having
to
problems
check
with
into
that,
that, yeah.
absolutely, and then they need an evaluation. Because I mean, there's some big trees that have been there, 100-year-old oaks that are blown over.
Yeah, part of that too, just piggybacking off of Robert, is that there's a lot of them out there with septic tanks with pumps on them.
Right.
Yeah,
They
and now
don't
the
have
pumps aren't working.
electricity that could back up sewers.
I think one of the things that, we talked about, I was asked today, and along that lines, on the septic tank, is for a reevaluation, we charge $300. So, we talked about, or I got an email, considering whether we would waive the $300 for the reevaluation fee. And then there was some discussion between the building inspector and environmental health that building inspections first would determine whether an inspection needed to occur. I don't know that we want to go ahead and make a motion to waive the fee, but I think that we need to review it on a case-by-case basis and give the Director of Environmental Health some leeway in whether to.
I'd like to know the magnitude before I'd make a
That's
motion to
right.
waive that fee.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe have people notify us of.
I'm not even
requests.
sure if the fee is reimbursable under their homeowner's insurance, so I don't know what we need to
I think you want to
do.
know where it's located on the property, and if there are any signs of damage from trees or car, vehicle, or the lines themselves. If you got these huge trees and the roots run all across the yard, there's a possibility that the lines get ruptured. So if you can identify and associate it with the storm, then that's a whole different story, not just go out and inspect septic tanks.
So John, what action items do you need us to take today?
Well, I'll start with the proclamation of the state of emergency. I'm not sure that everybody got a copy of it. I'll go ahead and pass it out. Really, the only thing we need to change here is the city has asked under the curfew section that we take them out of the curfew area. So, they just say, within, curfew only applies to areas outside the city limits affected by the storm. And then I'm asking Mr. Horrell how he wants us to do that, whether we need to just make a motion of that effect. And then I think there's also, the city sent us over consideration of price gouging. So I'll let him handle the price gouging issue.
I would like to ask, related to the proclamation, I know that was already a declaration about the curfew, and there was some confusion at some of the restaurants and other businesses around town yesterday about whether they had to shut down at 8 o'clock, and I insisted they didn't have to so I could eat, but I guess there is some confusion out there, and we probably ought to clarify publicly that the curfew is intended to do exactly what it says in here, not to be extended out to say that businesses can't remain open after 8 o'clock at night. I don't think we wanted to interfere with the free commerce here.
That's right. And the reason that, the city manager said that was all the business locations are located within city limits. So we're not affecting any businesses with the way we have it. And really, the affected areas for the curfew are where the sheriff and the people who are working for him have blocked off those areas. So, it's hard to say for me to go through here right now and list every area that the sheriff has blocked off right now. There's so many, but I think those people in those areas, like St. Andrews, they know that there should be a curfew in that area, and if anybody's walking around the neighborhood after 8 o'clock, they should dial 911. There are people out there going in people's houses. The sheriff's catching them.
John, the city of Sanford, if they wish to sort of separate themselves from this curfew, is that to say that they are going to cover the citizens of Sanford concurrently with this? They just want to What is
Well, they still want the state of emergency and some of the provisions, all the other provisions to stay in effect, except the curfew. They want to lift the curfew in the city limits. So since it's part of our declaration, we need to remove it.
Or make an exception that says, with the exception of the city of Sanford or inside the municipal limits of Sanford.
That's all we really need to say.
Madam Chairman, I would move that we approve the joint, or the proclamation of a state of emergency with the addition of a caveat under curfew that excludes that area inside the city limits.
Okay. Motion has been made to amend the proclamation of emergency. Any further discussion? All those in favor of amending the proclamation of state of emergency, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. What's next on your list, John?
Mr. Hoyle and the,
The city adopted their proclamation, they took advantage of the.
Can you speak into the, Mr. Hoyle?
They took advantage of provisions in the general statute, which in order to protect the health and safety of the citizens from unscrupulous vendors or merchants taking advantage of the scarcity of consumer goods involving the provision of services, gasoline, or lodging during a period of an emergency. And in order to protect the citizens, to maintain order in the county, of course, theirs was to the city, they are invoking the provisions against price gouging during states of disaster pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 75-37 and 75-38.
So are you,
Does the county include the same?
I would offer that those statutes are already in place at the statewide. I think it was done actually after, yeah, I think 3 years ago. Those statutes are already in place. I mean, for us to say those things are in force is redundant. That'd be my opinion.
you might be right, because the state still remains under a state of emergency that the governor declared, so.
and I would
That's just
say
echoing.
based on the generosity of the businesses in town who've been bringing supplies and food and whatever, I don't foresee it being a problem.
John,
Yes, sir.
question. Can you estimate how much damage was in the city and how much was in the county? Just very roughly, would you say it was mostly in the county or about half and half? Do you have a sense of that, having?
I would say that the vast majority of the residential damage occurred outside the city limits, and that the commercial, industrial damage occurred inside the city limits. And so, trying to place a value on it, just from the commercial and industrial sites that were damaged, the city probably has more value damage. But if you just went by structure numbers, there were more structure damage out in the county. So when you have 4 farms that have been pretty much destroyed, and they've lost their whole businesses, and then the number of homes destroyed, most of those 60 homes have been destroyed in outside the city limits. So it's really hard to say.
That's good. That gives one an idea about sort of the proportion of damage.
Okay, so I guess I hear no motion to do a price gouging type of action. So what's next on your list, John?
Where did that come from? Is that a recommendation for legal or?
I think you were asking if we wanted to consider it, right?
That is correct.
So is there a desire?
What would you recommend?
It is a state statute, and you report it to the Attorney General, and he investigates it and pursues the matter.
So you recommend we don't need it?
Right,
Fine. Now I'm good about
okay. I want you feeling good. Okay. Next on your agenda, John.
it. In your council, you want to make sure.
I'm going to ask Joe Cherry to come up for this one. This is the disaster debris management services contract. We don't like bringing contracts to the board without a lot of work that you all, or a lot of opportunity for y'all to review a contract. But this contract has been in circulation between the city and the county for months, and has been agreed upon by our attorney. Obviously, it would have been nice if we'd already had it in effect before the storm, but we were working more on the June 1st timetable for hurricane season, and I'll let Joe discuss the highlights of the contract.
Well, basically, we took requests for proposals. We had 6 proposals. This happened back in last August. And at the October 4th, I believe it was, board meeting, you did approve the proposal of Bird Brothers for us to enter a contract into Bird Brothers Emergency Services. And that is what it is. And they would be the contractor that we would look to actually do the debris removal, cleanup and removal on, of FEMA eligible debris.
I have a question.
In a nutshell. Sure.
Bird Brothers obviously is the recommended sourcing for this effort. In the event that we have a widespread disaster in the state of North Carolina that would involve Wilson, North Carolina, where they're from, do they have an out to have to provide this service on a timely basis?
If, with your approval, Carl Dix from Bird Brothers is here.
Okay.
Maybe better answer that question.
Yes, sir, we do. We actually maintain a large fleet of equipment ourselves. Over 60-plus pieces of
Why
equipment.
don't you come up to the mic so we can get that?
I apologize.
That's all right.
Carl Dix, Vice President of Bird Brothers. We maintain a large fleet of equipment to be certain to protect ourselves, to respond to multiple contracts, like something like this. Wilson County was damaged. We're responding there. We're responding here. We have a number of FEMA assistance teams that are kind of helping you guys out here, as well as helping Wilson County out. We maintain over 350 subcontractors that are pre-qualified and that are certainly well-versed in FEMA eligibility requirements that we will implement, on an as-needed basis for you guys.
So you have a relationship with subcontractors, a number of them, that in the event that you were stretched beyond your physical abilities with your primary equipment, that you could then call in the subcontractors to flesh you out to do the efforts like in Lee County?
Yes, sir, that is correct, but we always maintain a project management team in the county itself.
All right.
We never, leave a subcontractor by themselves to say, hey, you guys just go ahead and do this for us.
Okay.
You guys will always have at least one project administrator, a FEMA assistance team, and a senior project manager.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you ever use local subcontractors? Do you have-
Yes, sir, it's a must. That's a wonderful question. Under the Stafford Act, there are a number of local subcontractors that you must utilize.
We appreciate that.
Percentage.
Yes, sir.
We'll certainly look forward to that.
Have you used any subcontractors from Lee County in the past?
In the past, I wouldn't have that information in front of me, but if you certainly give me an opportunity, I'll certainly get back to you.
It's all yours.
And you are a FEMA certified vendor and have been working with FEMA for how long now?
15 years,
Okay.
but there are no FEMA certified vendors by any means. We have, I will say this, we've completed 174 federally funded projects.
Okay.
From the worst being Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Ike, whether it be ice storms, floods, other natural disasters, we've certainly responded in the past.
So John, if we don't get that FEMA designation, does the county incur the cost of the bird?
Well, we won't start work just yet.
Okay.
He'll probably start some of the mobilization and try to make sure he's got what he needs to come to this area. Go ahead and start working with the subcontractors and that kind of stuff. So once the declaration is made, they're ready to move. One thing that I've just been made aware of is on page 25. There's Article 43. That's a joint resolution of jurisdiction between, that we are allowed to contract with the city and the town of Broadway. So any motion we make needs to say that we're activating the joint resolution and with the city of Sanford.
And they're okay with that?
Oh, absolutely. They don't, since we've been through the bid process, we went through the evaluation process, their folks were on our evaluation team to evaluate the bid proposals. And it was a unanimous support for Byrd Brothers, and I think they were kind of taken aback that of the discussion today with FEMA about their concern about whether they were actually a party to the contract. So we want to make sure that they are a party to the contract, and that way they don't have to, go through an emergency bid process. And this would make it a lot cleaner for them as well.
Joe, you didn't get any protests on the announcement of award, intent to award, did you? Okay.
John,
Yes, sir.
regarding the FEMA approval, is there any doubt whatsoever in your mind that that will be approved based
There's
on?
always doubt when I'm dealing with the federal government.
After I saw how the meeting was conducted today, I left there with doubts.
So
I mean, not
I-
that we'd be designated, but
until the president steps up to the mic and then signs the declaration, there's always that little bit of doubt in my mind, but
But this,
if we
this
can't find 10
disaster, this
Yeah.
disaster matches other disasters.
Oh, it
that-
exceeds it because of the number of counties involved. We have 20 counties involved, and normally in hurricanes, it's less than 10. And if we can't, in this state, if we can't find $10 million worth of reimbursable expenses from FEMA, we're not really doing a very good job. So I just always have that caution. I get paid to be cautious.
But it's very likely.
you're dealing with the federal government.
I think we need to ask that question of Congresswoman Elmers and make sure that she's doing her job up there.
Okay.
I would say that it's favorable. I'm not going to say it's likely.
So you're recommending that this be approved?
Yes, ma'am, with the joint resolution with the city of Sanford attached, and the town, we might as well just go ahead and say town of Broadway as well. Even though they really don't have anything, we can go ahead and make it effective with them as well.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Make the motion that we approve this contract as presented.
With also concurrent with,
Yes, with
okay.
City of
Is there any
Sanford.
further discussion?
Yeah, I got it. Between you and Mr. Cherry, can you tell me how you would help alert our local people about your needs in advance so that they don't come up short? If you understand what I'm asking,
Yes, sir. You're talking like public service announcements, things like that?
whatever it takes.
We utilize a series of avenues to really get the word out to the public. Whether it just be radio advisories, newspaper articles, websites. We even go as far as to now set up social media outlets. That's always a large part as we've witnessed in numerous other disasters, in the past couple of years. So we have numerous things already kind of in place, ready to go, that have already been pre-scripted to quickly, release to the public. That way they certainly know when we're coming down their street to pick up debris.
Well, I'm more concerned about the subcontractors, how they know you're going to have this job and what type of work you might be able to offer them.
Oh, okay.
How Mr. Cherry is going to notify them on behalf of the county that this contract is now in place and it will possibly activate on whatever date. And here's what you need in terms of subcontractors. How do we coordinate that? Or do you two coordinate that, or what are we going to do here?
We'll go ahead and coordinate that. We actually maintain a local subcontracting plan. And what it details is actually us putting out newspaper articles or newspaper advisories, letting people know that we're possibly looking for this type of equipment, whether it just be a simple skid steer all the way to a self-loading knuckle boom.
So do we get a copy of that policy that you're talking about? Or do you have that already?
We don't have it yet, but we will get all of that information. Any
Okay.
contracts that he has with the subcontractors, we get copies of.
In advance?
Yes.
And now, do we have one, a policy like that, to put people on notice?
No, we
You
don't.
might want to copy his when you get it.
Yeah. They would actually be subcontractors of Byrd Brothers.
Right, I understand.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion's made to accept the pre-event Contract for disaster debris management services with Byrd concurrent with City of Sanford and Town of Broadway. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Next, John?
I'm just going to try to rest over here for a few minutes.
I have one other question, not related to the debris. This has to do with the nature of the event we just had. It exposed, the weather and the wind exposed a lot of personal property and commercial property. And I know that the businesses probably have action plans that they'll put into place, like Lowe's and static control. I'm just curious, a lot of residents I've noticed hauling their personal effects out of buildings, out of structures that couldn't be made, airtight or immune from the rain. I did get a call today from one owner of a building, the old Corey building, offering the services of his facility for dry storage for anybody that might need it. And I'm just curious if who would these vendors that have a number of vacant buildings that are sitting in Lee County right now that may want to offer that service either to commercial or to residential customers, so they wouldn't have to pay or pay very little to protect their goods that are exposed to the weather right now. I mean, who would they contact and how would they volunteer that?
Well, they can call the American Red Cross number or the emergency management number, and we'll probably put them in touch with the folks that are coordinating the volunteer relief efforts out at the EOC. And we'll add that group to the list of folks that people were asking us for assistance. And we'll add that to that list of folks to call. And I would say that for any service that people wanted to donate, I'd call both of those numbers.
Moving on the agenda, public comments, which we normally have first. And we've got 3 people who've signed up to speak today. Randy Todd is first on the list. And please state your address, and 3 minutes is the limitation.
First off, excuse me for being not quite clean. I've been out in St. Andrews cutting wood. Randy Todd, my business mailing address is 919 South Walnut Boulevard, Sanford, North Carolina. This is in regards to our school system and the different things that are going on with that. One of the things that's been bothering me is I hear a lot of people talking about we've got to cut this and we've got to cut that. We're trying to cut our sports programs. We're just fixing it or trying to get it to where the parents have to pay for their students. There's this large white elephant standing in the middle of the United States of America, even here in our small county. And it is the fact that we are funding people who are here illegally, which is a crime. We wouldn't do that for a rapist. We wouldn't do that for a murderer. We wouldn't do it for a drug dealer. So why should we do it for someone who is illegal? If the state is mandating that we do it, we need to stand up to the state and say no. Our citizens come first.
Yeah.
We need to quit giving things to people who haven't come here and earned it. We need to quit giving social services, medical, any of the things that we give. In this country, I forget which year it was, but on the social services program and the free medical, we gave out $517 billion in this country in 1 year. Last century, we had 3 different times that our presidents sent everyone that was in this country illegal home. I'm not talking about any particular country, but the last one, and you can look it up on the internet, was called Operation Wetback. It's in your computer. There was Truman, Eisenhower, and Taft, I think, were the presidents that sent the people back. And we can do it, and we need to start it right here in this small county, and we need to have our citizens come first instead of people who are here just taking money from us. If you cut out those services, we won't have that problem. Then we will have enough money and enough teachers that we can pay for our own students, for our own children to go to school that are here, that are legal, that taxes are being paid for, and that's the way it should be done. And I think somebody from this county, this board, should start looking into that, because there's thousands of dollars, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in this county that we're giving away to people who are not supposed to be here to start with. It's not a racial issue, it's a criminal issue. They're criminals. We need to quit sweeping it under the rug. We need to look at this. We don't need to keep spending money for people who are not supposed to be here to start with. I myself have been in a car accident where one of them ran into me, my daughter in front of my shop. One of them ran into her. He didn't have any driver's license, but luckily the car he was driving had insurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Next one is Charles Staley.
Hey, I came to talk to you about incentives. There's been a lot of stuff in the newspaper. Allied Crawford is being offered an incentive to come here and compete with Brian McCrae's Steel and Pipe. You have LSA America. They are receiving an incentive to move from Lee County to Halifax County, but they were given a loan. Whether it's an incentive or not is still a question, but they were given a loan of $80,000 to locate here, and then they're being given another $119,000, I believe it is, to relocate to Halifax County. And I saw all this stuff going on with the incentives, and I'm starting to think, well, you know, this is all stuff that the EDC has put together. You know, they're doing sloppy work. The things they're doing are questionable. They're not making good decisions. So I said, okay, well, I need to get the information. So here's what I have done. Tomorrow night, 6:30 at the old courthouse, Francis DeLuca, the executive director of NC Civitas, will be here to talk about incentives. He is what you would say an expert in incentives. So he will be here to provide information. I'm inviting all of the commissioners, every one of you, to come and find out about incentives. He will be here 6:30 tomorrow night at the old courthouse. Everything is set up. You're all invited.
Thank you. Next one on the list, Sheila Barber.
Sheila had to leave.
She left? Okay. All right, moving on to new business. Public hearing for the capital improvement plan. I guess I just declare that open, or do you need to say some comments, or?
I'm looking at my finance officer.
Actually,
Anything on that?
Can I do something here? We've
Yes,
got
ma'am.
Victoria Witt, who has come to speak before us. Can I
Okay.
switch these two items?
Sure, go ahead.
Where's- And Victoria is with the Sand Hills Mental Health Center, so welcome back again.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come back to you. I was actually here 6 weeks ago. By general statute, we at Sand Hills are required to appear before you twice a year. So I guess those 6 months really flew by. I am here tonight, as I told you 6 weeks ago, to do the formal county general budget request. We have already sent this to Mr. Crumpton. You have the information. I'm here tonight to present it to you. Plus, I wanted to follow up just briefly on some questions that you had when I was here 6 weeks ago. So first off, our area board, our board of directors, of which Commissioner Shook is a member, made the decision this year to once again not request counties to increase their county general funding contribution. This is actually the this is 7 years in a row where we have felt that with the economic situation that we really should not be requesting an increase. So Lee County's contribution for the past at least 3 years has been $240,000, and that is what we're here again requesting for next fiscal year. We'd just like to remind you that all of the funding that does come to us from Lee County, similar to the other 7 counties that we serve, stays in the county through use at our local access points. So that would once again be our intention this year, that if you so see fit to fund us at this level, that funding once again would go directly to support the local services here. I'll be glad to answer any questions about that. You should have not only our official letter to Mr. Crumpton, but also an analogy of county contributions in the 8 counties. I'll be glad to answer any questions about that.
On page, our page 41, where we're looking at county contributions, I know this has been discussed in the past, but it jumps out at most of us, I think, the difference between what Lee County gives and some of our adjoining counties like Harnett and Hope and some of the others. And help me again to understand why that is, why we seem to pay what I would think would be a greater share per capita than some of the other counties.
Okay, this, as the note at the bottom indicates, this does not include the in-kind county contribution that some counties similar to Harnett provides. So if you factor that in, what this is really the based on per capita. And it also, I think we talked about this when I was here before, a lot of it goes back to historical funding levels, and Sand Hills as 8 counties is a product of 3 mergers. And as we brought counties in to the system, you'll find that certain counties had lower local funding contributions because they received higher state funding, which came in as part of the merger. But a big part of the change here is the in-kind contribution. Now, one thing I could provide, if you'd like, I can provide that to Commissioner Shook, would be this breakdown if you factor it in kind. That does change the percentages. So if that is something you'd like to see, I can run those figures. Just to give you, Lee County does provide the local access unit here. I don't want to start naming things because I'll miss something. Harnett also provides the facilities that we operate. Also, there's a sheltered workshop that is provided in Harnett County. Moore County also, just to give you examples, once again provides not only buildings, they also provide some funding for some of the local organizations that flow through us. But once again, I'll be glad to get that information that would show more of the breakdown as far as adding the in-kind contributions in, if that would be helpful.
As much as you could give us, I think would be helpful. And let me just ask you this, do you therefore believe that what we're looking at and what you're going to provide us is a level playing field, that it's totally equitable, so that if you were me, you might be comforted by what I'll soon learn about this?
Well, and also, I think I'd have to comfort you or add to it that the local funding actually is a small part of the cost of operations of the programs that the different counties benefit from, because state funding, we utilize the state funding to supplement local to make sure there is a level playing field, because historically some counties are able to contribute locally more than other counties have been. So, once again, my assurance would be we attempt to provide equal services, especially related to outpatient, emergency, those type services, by supplementing with state funding. So I can't really tell you that when I provide that information to you, everybody's going to be at the same percentage, but I can assure you that we attempt to have an adequate level in each of our 8 counties, once again through state funding that we're able to bring in also.
How many people in Lee County have you serviced?
How many people? I don't have that information right here. I believe the report that I submitted that was the annual report for last year. I think this is the quarterly report. I don't have the annual report. I believe it was around 1,000. So many people, but I can also resend that to you also.
Please.
So total number of people served is what you'd be interested in.
I want to ask you a question. What does your state funding look like this time, or do you know?
Well, that was going to be my next part of this.
We've got Representative Stone here, so if you can't answer, maybe he can.
Okay,
You can tell us.
Well, our state funding, as you probably are aware, the legislative leadership have announced their intent, and I'm talking about the Department of Health and Human Services now, of which the mental health system is part. They have announced their intention of cutting about $592 million additional dollars from the proposal that the governor had. I think when I was here before, I said that the governor's proposal not only did not cut services in the community, those would be the state dollars I'm talking about that we use to help supplement local, that the governor had not planned to cut that the governor in addition had set aside a $75 million trust fund, mental health trust fund, to just be used for mental health services. Now, since then, the House and the Senate, mainly the House right now, are trying to cut additional funding from her proposal. What we're looking at, and I know there's a lot of negotiation going on now with the House and the Senate and the Department, but we are hearing that there will be a cut to community service funds, and those are the dollars that Sandhills receives in order to work with providers to fund services. We are hearing that there are going to be reductions in the rates and the amount of the Medicaid services. So while I'm here mainly talking about state dollars, because that's how we purchase state services, the people who are on Medicaid that are receiving behavioral health services, there are plans to cut the rates and plans to eliminate some of the services. There are plans to reduce the LME administrative fees. That's basically what Sandhills Center receives to provide the management function that we provide, and we're hearing there are going to be reductions in the LME. Once again, that's what Sandhills is, LME, our fund balances. So the picture right now, as of last Tuesday when that budget was released, does look like a cut to funding, to purchase the service, optional Medicaid services, the LME administrative services, and fund balance. So I can't stand here and paint a very good picture right now as far as what it's looking like. I do know that the department, the secretary, is working with the budget leaders of the legislature to address some of these issues. So we're waiting to see what the cuts are going to be. You may remember in 09-10 is when the $40 million was taken out of the service system, and we had to cut back on the amount of money providers were able to recoup for the services that they're receiving. I am hearing that something similar to that may be occurring, although the advocates and everyone is working really hard to not have that happen again. That was a very devastating blow to the system when you take $40 million out of services. So I don't really know, I painted kind of a worst case scenario because that's kind of unfortunately, how I tend to operate sometimes. But we're hopeful that negotiations, it will not be as bleak.
If you get approved for the Medicaid waiver program, will that improve things
What-
any?
If you'll remember, Sand Hill Center is one of the LMEs that is being favorably looked at to take on the Medicaid waiver, which is where not only would we receive the state funding, we would also receive the Medicaid funding for our 8 counties. We could take those dollars, put them together along with the local money that we receive, and have more flexibility in how services, what services are delivered and how they're delivered. So to answer your question, we would see that as bringing more flexibility locally.
And at our board meeting last week, you were, I think, pretty optimistic that that might happen.
We have been notified that Sand Hills, there's what they call an RFA process right now going on, and we have been told that Sand Hills, since we applied last year and did not move forward at that time, we've been told we will not have to reapply, that we can go ahead and start working toward waiver implementation, but this is all still very dependent on the House and Senate approving waiver expansion.
Okay, that's done by the House and Senate and not just DHHS.
Right, there's a law right now that says that the waiver cannot be expanded, but the Senate has passed a bill allowing it, and we're waiting for the House to do that.
Okay.
And
We'll try to get that word along.
Ms. Witt, I have a point. Last time you were here, we talked about the per capita funding as well, and I want to come back to that for a second. I still have a hard time accepting the historical argument for why we continue to do things, because there's a lot of things we do that based on history, that doesn't make it right. And I would just encourage you to pass back to, and I'm speaking for myself, not for the board here necessarily, but to pass back concerns from some county commissioners that a lack of uniformity in funding requirements raises suspicion about the equity and the sensibility of certain programs. And this is one of those classic cases in point where I just can't accept at face value that we've always done it this way argument, okay? I think it's imperative that the Sand Hills LME, operating as a uniform body of mental health providers, that we have, at least within our LME, uniformity in the way we fund, so that all the 8 member counties are participating at the same level, however that's done. And if you want to consider in-kind contributions as well, I think we have some in-kind as well that we're providing. I think it's only fair and equitable we do it that way. And if for some reason there's a legislative reason why we can't do it, that you would contact the legislature, General Assembly, let them take that for action, because I think the General Assembly has some new blood there, and I think that they're willing to reestablish some accountability and some sensibility to that kind of funding mechanism.
Okay. I'll be glad to take that back to our board. We can discuss that. And can I just hand this out real quickly? These are, this is,
Pass them down.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is some information, and I'm not going to take much more of your time. I remember one of the questions that you had last time was substance abuse. What are some of the I think it was described as charity work, but what I wanted to do was show you, this first is a list of all the substance abuse facilities, either residential, halfway houses, outpatient, whatever, that Sand Hill Center works using our state funding to provide services for people who meet the income level. I know that was one thing you were interested in. So the first sheet is basically all of the facilities that we have state funding contracts with to provide services for people, once again, that meet the income level. The next 2 or 3 sheets I believe you wanted more of a historical picture of kind of substance abuse, how it's changed over the years. What this is kind of a snapshot profile in North Carolina of substance abuse, from the demographics to the substances that are being abused, the diagnoses, whether or not people are more compliant with treatment now than before. So these 3 sheets are really kind of snapshot pictures of the substance abuse issue in North Carolina. The next sheet, I think people were interested. I said that we have CABA's providers in Lee County. These are the names of the providers who are delivering comprehensive services here in Lee County. You can tell some have their corporate office within the 8 counties. Some, like Mentor and Easter Seals, are based out of Raleigh, but they come in to Lee County. And then the last 3 are just some, there was interest in the complaint process as far as how we process complaints. These are just graphs breaking out Lee County as far as complaints.
There's a reason to reduce our funding right there. We don't complain as much as the other counties.
So this is a breakdown of the complaints both for last fiscal year and the first quarter of this year. All of this information I'm just kind of giving you as snapshots of what we have available. I can provide you additional information once you look at this. And I think what this also points out, if you go back to the very first sheet, is that the state funding that we're able to receive, we are able to purchase what we call indigent services, especially in the area. I just gave you substance abuse, but we have mental health and developmental disability programs that we also contract with state dollars. I can stand here and talk about this all night. But
One question I had last time related to the fee that people pay when they go in for substance abuse services. Is there an opportunity to have that fee waived?
There is, and I checked into that after the meeting, and that should not be being presented as an issue. I think you had said several months ago you thought it was an issue.
Right.
I checked again, and it should not be. And yes, the local outpatient unit can waive the fee based on
Income level,
and,
good.
Right.
Okay, so an indigent person that wanted to get help would be able to have the fee waived, go ahead and get a referral to a detox unit and all that?
Well, for here, the only fee that should be being charged them right now is a $5 or less for the outpatient services. That can be waived.
Okay.
The services I just gave you, there wouldn't be any fee associated with.
But if a
those.
person that had alcohol addiction and was at risk of DTs could actually be carried to more or taken to Daymark, receive a screening there, and then get an emergency referral for detox without having to pay anything.
They could have the fee waived at Daymart if they indicated they could not pay. I think it's $3 to $5,
Right.
And then we have contracts with these detox facilities
Okay.
where the person would never have to pay anything if they meet all the eligibility requirements.
Okay. One other quick question. I don't see Harvest House on your list of providers.
Harvest House, I'm trying to think why that would be. I'm thinking they only take Medicaid, but let me check into that.
I know that's a very popular place to take people here. I know it's a good distance, but it's an exceptional facility, and I was just curious why you don't use them as a referral.
That name is real familiar,
Yeah.
so I know we've had discussions, but let me check into that Harvest House.
Okay.
Contract with Daymark, did you happen to bring any of their staff here tonight?
No, it was such a short time frame, I was really not able to do that, but I will definitely arrange for that in the future.
Yeah, is that part of your contract? That I would think that if you're locating a provider for us, that I would think they'd have the courtesy to come over and introduce themselves to the board. And if that's not part of the contract, you ought to consider making it part of the contract.
We will make sure that happens. Also, and I think Commissioner Shook was going to say something about it. We have breakfasts every so often in the different counties, and we are we're requiring Daybart to do the same, and we're in the process of setting that up with them, and you will all receive invitations to tour the facility and also to ask any questions. That is something we're trying to set up now.
But trying to get them to come over here first.
Okay.
They're not far.
Okay.
I want to do breakfast.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
And if there's anybody watching or anybody in the audience or any county staff that was going to attend the breakfast that we were going to have tomorrow morning at 8:30 at the library, that's been postponed.
That has been canceled due to, we had contacted DSS and the Sheriff's Department, and they're usually big participants in that meeting, and with the storm damage and everything, we thought best to cancel that, and we'll be rescheduling that.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got, how many Clearwater folks do we have in the, oh wow. Okay. Do I have any objections to move that up to the next item? As long as I can keep track of which item I'm on? Okay. So let's talk about item G, Clearwater Forest Fire District update.
You may need to give me a moment to check the PowerPoint I was going to do. I couldn't get it together.
Well, you want to take a 5-minute break here?
I think we'll be
Yeah, let's
okay.
do it.
Okay, 5-minute break.
I'll have to check by there one day.
I'm surprised you didn't go in.
Board of Commissioners will now be back in session. Mr. Talbot.
Good afternoon, good evening. For the record, my name is Dale Talbot. I'm Deputy County Attorney. The matter to be presented to the board this evening for its consideration is a petition by residents of the Clearwater Drive residential area. We have invited for their comments or questions by the board some of the residents to appear tonight. My understanding is that John Hall is present. Mr. Hall, would you stand up? And we also have the Pattersons and the Wheelers and Mr. Gaston. And we have one other group. Warner. And
Neighboring up church.
also invited to attend tonight, but probably to be given an excused absence, is Mr. Don Andrews of the Lee County Fire Advisory Board and officers of the Cape Fear Rural Fire Protection District. The matters to be discussed are outlined in your agenda package from pages 77 through 95. Foremost of those is a memorandum from Mr. Hoyle, the county attorney, and myself to the board, which provides a background of the situation and some factual data. You'll notice on the agenda abstract that where the place is for recommendation, the word none appears. That is because the matter before you, that is consideration of the petition, involves a matter of policy decision, which is in the board's hand and not your council's hand. We're going to attempt to do our best to explain the positions of both sides, as Mr. Hoyle and I have learned them to be from various meetings. And as I say, we have residents here to ask follow-up questions of if you have them. This parallels pretty much the memorandum. This is a petition by the Clearwater Drive property owners and residents to, as their petition says, to transfer the area's fire protection services from the Cape Fear Fire District of Lee County to the jurisdiction of the city of Sanford. The purpose of the memorandum, although not stated, has been expressed as improving the area's fire protection rating. A copy of the entire petition has been presented to your clerk for your review. There is on page 89, the first page of the petition with a few signatures, indicating that that is the nature of the petition. This is a map of the Clearwater Drive residential area. I need to tell you at this point that the petition was initially generated by, as I understand it, only the residents on Clearwater Drive, although the houses, the residences on Clearwater Drive and those cul-de-sacs or side streets do not show. The residents living in that area on Clearwater Drive were the first to start the petition. However, in subsequent discussions with the city, including the fire chief, the city manager, and the city's attorney, it was determined that rather than just limiting the petition to the Clearwater Drive area residents and property owners, leaving out some persons in the adjacent area, it would be a better approach to amend the petition and amend your consideration of the petition to a slightly larger area that includes some more residential property. But that basically in yellow is the Clearwater Drive area, as we're referring to it. The green represents the city limits. This is a description, the demographics, as you will, of the Clearwater area. It is, of course, an unincorporated area of the county located in the northwest corner, far northwest corner of the Cape Fear Rural Fire Protection District. It is substantially surrounded by the city limits, except on its northeast border along 401 bypass. It consists of a little over 1 square mile. There are 251 separate parcels. The tax value of those parcels is about $21.5 million as of January 2011. Population as of 2011 is 529. Population density is pretty high at 493. And again, that's the area that we're talking about, the Clearwater area. As I said, the Clearwater area is part of the Cape Fear Rural Fire Protection District, and this shows the proximity or location of the Clearwater area to the larger remaining Cape Fear Fire District area. The color contrast doesn't show very well, but I think you can make out at the edge of the Cape Fear Fire District where Clearwater is. Anyone have any difficulty in picking that out? Here are the demographics of the remaining portion of the Cape Fear Fire District. That means excluding the Clearwater area. A little over 52 miles, almost 3,300 separate parcels. Tax value is $336 million, a little over that. Population 4632, and their density is, of course, much smaller since it's a rural area, only 88.5 per square mile. Of other interest is the fact that currently the special tax rate paid by property owners in the Cape Fear District is 8.6 cents per $100 property valuation. This again is the picture of the Cape Fear Fire District and in the yellow Clearwater. As I said, the goal as presented to us of this petition and request for transfer of fire services is to improve the area's fire protection coverage rating. All but a small portion of the Clearwater area now has a fire protection coverage rating of 10, meaning unprotected, according to the insurance folks. The reason for that is that most of that area is more than 6 road miles from the closest Cape Fear Fire District station. As a result of being unrated, the residents pay on a $125,000 home $1,199, and this is per the Lee County Fire Advisory Board and the residents. I did not personally verify that information, but that is what I have been told. This is hard to see, but this map, like all others, was prepared by our by our Strategic Services Department, and it was prepared back in April of last year when this issue was first brought to light. There was some discussion that I'll detail in a moment between the residents and the existing fire district and others concerning options to achieve the goal of reducing the fire rating. This was one of those maps. The green roads show the 6-mile road distance from the nearest Cape Fear fire station into the Clearwater area. So as you can see, it only comes down Kelly Road a little bit, and I'm not sure what that other road is that parallels the city.
And Mr. Talbert, just for the group that don't understand where that fire station is. That's
I have a
one
slide for that.
That's one in Broadway, right?
Yes, sir, I have a map of that. Now, receiving fire protection service from the City of Sanford Fire Department would bring all of the Clearwater area inside of 5 road miles of a Sanford fire station. And here you can see that yellow dot on the far right lower quadrant is the present location of the closest Cape Fear District fire station. You see in the yellow inside the city limits, the 2 stations that could service Clearwater. They would be the Sanford Central Station and Sanford Station number 2. This map shows the Sanford 5-mile insurance district as it's designated on this map. The roads in green are the areas that would be within 5 miles of the Sanford fire station. In essence, all of Clearwater Drive, all of the adjacent areas. And as you can see on this map, the little squares there represent residences. So when I mentioned before that area that is to the southeast, the road along the southeast portion of the proposed area has very few residents, as do those few roads at the top. But by having fire coverage, fire protection service provided by the City of Sanford, it would bring all of that area within 5 road miles of one of the Sanford stations. Or what does that do? If you get service from the Sanford Fire Department, they would get a rating of 4, a fire protection coverage rating of 4 for the entire Clearwater area. Insurance premiums would be reduced from nearly $1,200 to about $440 a year on that same $125,000 home. And again, this data is from the Lee County Fire Advisory Board and the owners. I've not independently verified that.
Mr. Talbert, I do have a question. I understand the City of Sanford, the only ones who get the 4 are commercial. So it's my understanding that the Clearwater folks would be rated at a 6.
Actually, technically, the residential property would be rated as 4 with respect to the fire protection coverage. But as far as premiums go, there is no difference for a residential unit between a 4 and a 6. Now, that's the technicalities of it, but you can't get any better as a residential unit than a 6.
Yeah.
That will not affect your insurance.
Okay. So I guess my question was, these were based rate on, these cost amounts were based on a 6, not a 4, I guess.
6 and a 4 is the same, yes. So they would have,
Okay.
well, I shouldn't even say that because I've just said I don't know where the numbers came from. And maybe Mr. Hall or some of the other residents
Well,
came.
Don Andrews put this together. I
He
think
did.
it's accurate because he's both an insurance man and the volunteer fire thing, so it's probably accurate then.
He did. The last bullet there is probably the most important one for property owners in the Cape Fear District, excluding Clearwater, if there is a change in the organization of that district. And that is that if you remove the property values in the Clearwater area from the existing tax base of the Cape Fear Fire District, and the Cape Fear Fire District maintains its current 2010-11 and 2011-12 revenue stream, there would be a tax increase for those persons in the Cape Fear Fire District of 6.2 cents. That's a bad graphic, I don't.
Yeah, I
That's
had asked you that
6.2
question.
cents.
Is that an increase over what they have today?
Correct.
Then that you said, or previously said 8.6 cents. So 8.6
That's what
plus
they-
6.2 would be 14.
It takes them almost to 15, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
let-
yeah.
Total of 9.2
It will be a total of 9.2. They're paying 8.6 now.
So it's only a
It's gonna go up.
.0062.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
correct, a half cent, that is
That's
correct.
right.
Thank you.
My graphic is correct.
Don't say you
No,
gonna use
it's not. It should say .0062.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's missing a zero.
Okay, sorry about that. And again, these numbers are not my numbers, they were presented and prepared by the Lee County Fire Advisory Board. And I went to UNC, not state, so I didn't have to take
So the rate increase would only be for those people within that area that's gonna change, is that correct?
The rate increase,
Fear of residents.
the rate increase of .62 cents. The rate increase of .62 cents would be for the residents remaining in the Cape Fear Fire District if Clearwater was carved out. And that would be based upon the Clearwater Fire District retaining the same revenue stream as it has now. They would just have to bump up the tax rate charged everyone else remaining in the district by about a half cent.
So for all those residents that are in that, they get a reduction for their insurance premium, but all of the ones out in my district get a raise.
No, not in your insurance premiums. Your
No, meaning
Tax.
your
taxes.
tax will go up.
But it's less than a penny.
Yeah.
It's 62 cents of a penny.
And that's if the revenue remains the same. And again, I'll make this comment, I'm not suggesting or recommending anything, but the other option would be for the Cape Fear Fire District to reduce its anticipated needed funding because they wouldn't have to service. Cape Fear
And
Fire.
they've added a new substation, which this board, tasked them with a couple of years ago. So we're just, I think, have to look at all of that, but, so, moving on.
Moving on, this has been in discussion for at least a year, what to do about the Clearwater area. And it's my understanding, in April of last year, or maybe even earlier, the Fire Advisory Board and Cape Fear Fire District and the residents had discussions and came up with at least 3 options. One was to establish a substation on Avens Ferry near Broadway Road. 2 is to have Northview and Carolina Trace districts expanded to provide split service to the Clearwater area. And option number 3 was to create 2 service districts. We'll explain what a service district is in a moment when I discuss that option, but it's different than a fire district. Option 1, create a Cape Fear substation on Avens Ferry near Broadway Road. That red circle shows the approximate location of where that station could go. I am informed by the Fire Advisory Commission chair and others that there is a building located there that could be rented, and I have that data following this chart, and I also have the effect of it. This just shows you where that would be. Effects of a new fire station, bring all of Clearwater within 5 road miles of the new fire station. It would cost approximately $20,500 a year. It would increase the Cape Fear tax rate for everyone by that amount, cents per year. It should have another 0 in it. And would improve Clearwater's fire protection rating to a flat 9, and that's Cape Fear's basic rating.
Dale, I had a fire advisory board meeting last week, and it's my understanding that the only plan that covers every single person in Clearwater is if the city of Sanford covered them. There was a pocket of people under all these other options where they were not covered. So is that your understanding?
That is, and I think I have some slides that will give you visual evidence of that. But in essence, it's going to cost $20,500 a year to operate that new fire station if that's the option chosen. Option 2 is expand the Carolina Trace and Northview districts. That would bring portions of Clearwater into one or more of the district's 5-mile area. and other portions within 6 miles. This map, again, was not prepared by myself, but by GIS for, I believe, the Fire Advisory Board, showing one method of having Northview and Carolina Trace cover the area. And the graphics indicate the distances from the closest station of each of those fire districts. This is another graphic demonstrating the same thing, but less effectively, I think. However, this map had been created during the discussion, so I wanted to show it to you. If you look at this and just pick out one of the black dots showing an area or the distance from a fire district, you can see that this map has the dots in the same place.
Can I just interject here and kind of
Sure.
maybe speed this up a little bit? Basically, we have 3 choices. And the one that covers everybody in Clearwater is the one with the Sanford Fire Department. And their rate would go from 9, whatever it is in Deep River now, to what, by the time you add the fire marshal's little part in there, would go to 17 something?
The city has estimated that it would cost $36,000 in FY 11-12 to provide coverage similar to that provided to the property owners within the city limits. That $36,000 does equate to the tax rate you indicated of about 16%. Well, I shouldn't say that. The cost will then be 16 cents per $100 valuation. But on top of that, you have to add the 1.25 cents that the fire marshal's office charges. Okay, I got the hint, so let me just say that it's going to be difficult to bring Northview and Carolina Trace district areas to encompass Clearwater because of the statutory complexity and waiting time. The option of doing the new fire station still is there. It will be easier to do the service districts, and I must explain this very quickly. The law allows you to create districts on top, service districts on top of existing districts to provide certain services, including fire protection, ambulance, and rescue. And that can be done in the time frame suggested by the residents of Clearview. They're looking at July 1 to get all of this done. As I understand it, that's the date when the new fire coverage ratings are established by the Rate Bureau or the insurance companies, and the others would just take too long. There are things that you must do in order to initiate the process of creating these service districts. Simply put, you have to make certain findings. Those findings would be the demographic information I've given you. Those are required to be made, the density, population, the tax rates, and all of those things. This is important too. Based upon those factors, you must decide these 3 things in a resolution based upon the findings of fact, and you must then direct staff of either the county to go forward with creating these service districts, or if your decision is otherwise, encourage Cape Fear Fire District to move forward with the fire station, or you must decide whether you want to expand the boundaries of the existing Carolina Trace and Northview.
I will say that I think everybody on this board wants what's best for the Clearwater homeowners and taxpayers. And, you know, they've obviously done their homework. The 17 cents, you know, they're willing to pay that because their homeowners insurance will finally go from a 9 or a 10 to down to a 6. So they're going to get that cost savings there. The thing that troubles me is I want some assurances for them that this is going to be more than a 1-year rate by the city of Sanford. I want them to know that they're going to get the same level of services, at least the same level they get from Cape Fear. And when it comes time every year for the other volunteer fire departments to negotiate their budgets or have their budgets approved by the Fire Advisory Board, is the city of Sanford gonna undergo the same scrutiny? I don't
That
know.
could be part of your direction to staff. It doesn't have to be in your resolution tonight, but we certainly would do that. Mr. Hall may want to chime in on this, but we have not, while I've been president of any meeting, discussed a multi-year contract, and I'm not certain of whether the city would be willing to do that. After all, our fire districts do come to you every year, and that may be the better way to approach this with Sanford, treating them just like you treat the other fire districts.
Mr. Crumpton, what do you want to offer here?
Well, that's, county I came from, that's how we did it with the city of Laurinburg. They had to submit their budget, just like the fire districts submitted their budget to the county. We didn't have a fire advisory board. I reviewed all the fire district budgets at that time, but I think they should have to jump through the same hoops on an annual basis that the others do, and we do have some performance guarantees in our existing contract with the districts. Really, is if they don't provide the service, we can pull the contract. So.
And the other caveat is, if for some reason the city of Sanford loses their fire rating, not very likely, but possible, yes, they're stuck, with that. So we need some protections. Let me ask the Clearwater folks, do you want protection for more than a year, knowing that the rate's going to be 17 cents, or what if it goes up a cent every year for the next couple of years? Are you going to be happy with that?
Let me ask a question. The county would take the contract for the fire protection, right? And the city of Sanford had to come before our board, just like the rest of the fire stations. Is that right? Or fire districts. Right.
That's what you put in the contract. They always, they could do like every other contract and just send the contract, send their request straight, or budget request straight to the board. But, I think that if that's our process, they should submit theirs to the fire advisory board just like everybody else. And then eventually I get to review it anyway, so.
Somebody got to have some control there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm John Hall. I live on 1515 Clearwater Drive. We appreciate the opportunity to come to you tonight to consider this. We've been working on this for a couple of years. And it really came to our attention a couple of years ago when we had homeowners whose homeowners insurance came up for renewal. I know that some of them, the premium tripled in the amount, and they didn't know why, so they were asking questions. And so we invited the fire marshal's office over to talk to us, and they did. And we found out why, because we're in an unprotected district and supposed to be rated a 10 for insurance purposes. The fact is, some of us are rated 10, some are rated 9, some are rated 7. We're incorrectly rated. We didn't do that. Sometimes the insurance companies don't check the road mileage. But, once the cat's out of the bag, which I guess it is, we're going to all be 10. We exhausted all the efforts with the county. We talked to the fire marshal's office. We looked at the possibility of going to Carolina Trace and Northview. We would still only be rated a 9 if we went with those two fire departments, and we'd split the community. We'd have to decide when a fire call came in, is Northview coming or is Carolina Trace coming? So that would be a problem, and we'd still be rated a 9. So after we'd exhausted all our efforts, Frank Wheeler went over to the city one day and just talked to the city manager and just asked, is there anything we can do? And he said it might be. Of course, we've been meeting since then. We met with the attorneys. We met with Mr. Oil and Mr. Talbot and the city attorney and worked it out. We have some big concerns in Clearwater. Our biggest concern is being over 6 miles in an unprotected district from a fire station. Just for example, about 6 weeks ago on a real windy morning, we had some bamboo down on the lake hitting some electrical wires, and we had a brush fire start. It was about 8:15, 8:30 in the morning during a weekday. All the firemen were at work. The Cape Fear Fire Department does an excellent job, but the problem is they're just too far away. It took that morning, from the time the call went in, it took 20 minutes for the first truck to arrive. And we would hate to think that what would happen at 3 a.m. in the morning if we had a house fire and they had to get up, come get out of bed, come to the fire station, we may lose everything. So fire protection is our number one concern. The second concern, we have talked with insurance companies, and we understand that many insurance companies will not write fire insurance for Class 10 insurance, unprotected areas anymore. And so we will have difficult times even finding anybody to write homeowners insurance. The third thing is the cost. Now, there's a big difference in being rated 4 or 6 and a 10. It's going to either double or triple our insurance rates if we can even get insurance. And the third concern that we've had that was pointed out by several people, the Fire Chief Wayne Barber pointed this out, if, as some of us are rated incorrectly at maybe a 7, and we have a total loss, which could happen, we would probably be in litigation forever with insurance companies to get them to pay. And so we have 4 problems there. And so it seems to us that the city of Sanford would be the best route. They have looked at all different scenarios. You asked the question about would the rates change? I don't know. They may go down. I understand from Chief Barber in a meeting the other day, I think the number of calls we have in the last 3 years has been 18. That's 6 per year. And I think that's including the whole area from Bragg Street to the bypass, to Nash Street, even the area not in Clearwater. I doubt Clearwater's had 3 calls in the past year. And so he said the number of calls compared to their total calls is less than 0.5% of their calls. And so they feel totally adequate in being able to service us. And so I don't think it will add a whole big burden to the Sanford Fire Department. And I understand they will reconsider the rates every year and they could flex. It could go down, John. It may go up.
I doubt it with them.
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. But right now, with the situation we have, I think we would all be happy paying the 16 cents plus the cent and a quarter for the fire marshal's office. So that's sort of where we stand. And I know we're on a tight schedule. We've talked a lot with Mr. Hoyle and Dale. And I think to get it going, we've got to move on it to get it done this year. But we've had, I think just about except 1 or 2 residents of Clearwater have signed a petition to do this. And for Clearwater, I'm talking about in Clearwater Incorporated, the subdivision. And we have had some residents outside of Clearwater. We hadn't had time to really contact all of them, but we've had probably over 90 signatures on a petition to do this. So we request that you do it.
Madam Chairman, just one point of clarification on it. The brush fire was not a structure fire. On a structure fire, we would have automatic mutual aid with the city of Sanford, and the sad thing is they'd beat the volunteer department there by about 10 minutes. So just from a pure standpoint of coverage, it makes better sense. And we have discussed this with the city in the past about them taking this service over. So it's taken actually a couple years for them to agree to it. So I think that since they've agreed to do it, and they've come down from the original 23 cents, I think is what they told me it would take the first time I talked with them.
I just don't want
Probably a good
them,
thing.
since they have a price gouging policy, maybe we can use it against them if this comes up for renewal in a year. But I just want them to have a steady rate that they can plan on for a while and know that may not get a big increase. But I also want some guarantees that if the city should happen to lose its rating and they all go back to a 10, they're paying this high rate, there's got to be some kind of a...
Well, I think if there was ever an issue with the city's rating, we probably, it's a service district. We can always change it back to Cape Fear and get them to, get a little bit more active in the substation business.
Yeah, I'd like to
I think we have that. I think we have that flexibility.
Yeah, I'd like to see it changed over. Cape Fear is good because I live 6.9 miles north of there, and they got to my house in eight minutes. But the windy roads that you have and the traffic certain times of day would diminish that considerably. I was shocked whenever I talked to Mr. Hall and Dale, whenever they were showing it to me earlier. I think you need to really do that.
We want what's best for all of you, so what do we need to do here?
Before you do anything, let me make a procedural point, which is This has to be done by resolution, telling us as staff to go forward with the process needed to establish service districts. This vote will not establish them. There's going to be a public hearing required, notice required to the residents, written notice individually, 4 weeks before a public hearing. You have to have newspaper notice. So what we're looking for here, if you want to go forward, is a resolution making those findings of fact and reaching those conclusions, and directing staff to go forward. Now, a resolution can be passed one vote tonight if it carries, and then we could go forward.
Okay, so
Do we
the
have a
resolution, would you guys write the resolution?
Yes, sir. What the resolution is already written. I didn't present it to you to be presumptuous of what action you wanted to take.
Okay, the only concern I have is for Cape Fear, since they're gonna be reducing their workload, I wanna make sure that there's no extra taxes out there.
That's gonna depend on their budget.
The Fire Advisory Board recommendation.
I don't want them
Take the
to.
tax base from
Tell them
them.
that the
23 million.
notices have to go to all the residents of the Cape Fear Fire District.
It's not that, because they have a
Well, they,
subsidy.
John.
I think they need to understand that. I mean, there's a
What's
big
that?
expense
The gentleman out
there.
here wants to speak.
Can I speak, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much. I'm Ricky Taylor, President of the Board of the Cape Fear Fire Department. I just want to be, first and foremost, we started several years ago with our intent of having these homeowners in a tax district. That was one of the initial objectives of the Fire Advisory Board when that was established, was to get everybody in a rated district. So I'm in support of getting these guys in a rated district. What I'm cautious about, just because we lose those tax dollars, don't mean we reduce our cost of operation. I think what the numbers that were presented shows, we would, if we lose Clearwater, then we're gonna be looking at about 9.2 cents fire tax. If we go with the substation, the third substation, which we could implement, assuming we could negotiate with the property owners, we're still gonna see a tax increase across the entire district, up to 9.4. Either way, the taxpayers of the Cape Fear Fire Department are gonna see an increase. I want that to be clear, because I don't know that it was completely clear there. It's no win for the taxpayer within our district based on our current budget and the proposal that we've got before the Fire Advisory Board right now with our new proposed budget. They will see a tax increase. There's no way of avoiding it other than cutting budget. Once we have the opportunity to present our budget to the Fire Advisory Board and then talk before the county commissioners, I think you'll see our budget is quite lean. It is very lean. And if we cut that budget, then we could be jeopardizing service. I'm not here to talk about that. I think what's important is getting these homeowners in a rated district. Then there'll be subsequent things that we, as a board of the fire department, the Fire Advisory Board, and then the county commissioners, that we'll have to address beyond that point.
I think
Either way, there's a tax increase for the district.
this board needs to remember that if we do this, we're taking 23 million, 26 million from Cape Fear's tax base.
That's right.
Okay, and so we can't expect them to decrease their budget based on that, because they've got a substation and other things. So there may be an increase, but when you look at what's the fire tax I'm paying, what's the homeowner's insurance, you're still getting the bang for the buck, even if they get a little.
That's right.
And I've seen the documents to
and we
prove
can,
that.
And I can defend every line of the budget line by line.
I saw your budget last week, it is very lean.
So,
Well, I appreciate the budget and all that kind of stuff, but you gotta have reduced services, number one. And I don't know about where you're getting that 2 million something or other, but I have some concern because we got a lot of people hurting already on taxes, and I don't wanna see any increase in
me
taxes.
either. I don't.
There's no way we can afford a substation.
It's already
So-
built.
Yes, Michelle?
Broadway,
John.
I mean, Cape Fear had a
Got a question
15%
for you.
limit voted when they went to tax the union. I would assume we would put these people in the same situation. Their service district could not go above 15 cents.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to be clear about one thing. We're talking about setting up a fire district for Clearwater to be served by Sanford, isn't that right?
Service district?
It's
or
a,
fire district?
it's a service district, not
Yeah.
a fire district.
Yeah. And we're to be serviced by the city of Sanford.
Yes, sir.
Who would again come, just like the other fire boards, to us if they want a fire tax increase.
They would submit their annual budget to the fire advisory board, and the fire advisory board, you have to set.
know how
the
that
rate.
works. I was
You
on-
gotta set the rate, you gotta do the tax levy on an annual basis, so it will come before us every year.
But to be more precise, that's an item term to be negotiated in the contract. That's what we hear as directions from this board to do. But Sanford may say, no, I don't love it. It's negotiated, it's not required by law.
I'm in favor of the resolution, if that's what the Clearwater folks, and if that's the best deal for them. I am nervous about approving a resolution I haven't read in its entirety.
Yes.
I can get copies within minutes. Will you take your break? You can look at it. It has nothing more.
We're taking another break.
Can we
we're
not
getting ready
sign
to
the
get this
resolution
meeting
at the
in the giddy
next
up mode.
meeting and still be within the time frame
I
to
don't
get?
think so.
Let's go ahead.
You know, this is one of the first times we've gotten this far on the situation. And I'm willing to take the risk of moving forward and allowing it to take place tonight based on what our legal is recommending, and just go ahead and bite the bullet and get it done. When it's time for a review, we'll see where everybody is at that point and make the adjustments accordingly.
I move we go ahead and pass the resolution.
We got a public hearing, it's gotta come back to us again anyway, before it's actually implemented,
So
unless you have to approve the contract with the city.
Let's go.
All those in favor of the motion to approve the resolution that we haven't read yet, that will set this up for, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr.
Like
Telk.
healthcare reform, right? You gotta pass the bill so you know what to do.
They've been wrestling with this for years. They've been wrestling with this for years.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the only way you know what to do is to do something first.
Do something, that's right. Don't sit around and get on with the get on.
Chair, we're gonna move forward?
Yes.
Okay, I need
Okay. Where are we here?
Item A.
Which one?
Go back to item A.
Item A, public hearing on the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2012-16. Mr. Crumpton, do you want to lead off on this? or-
I'll make it quickly. Back on March 21st, 2000, at our March 21st, 2011 meeting, I presented the recommended capital improvements program to the board for its consideration. This public hearing tonight was scheduled and advertised. We've had the CIP in the clerk's office for review, and I recommend that we move forward with the public hearing.
So I now declare the public hearing on the capital improvement plan to be a session. Anybody who cares to speak in favor of the capital improvement plan? Hearing none, anybody who would like to speak against the capital improvement plan? Hearing none, can I call the hearing closed?
That's the way to conduct.
Told you we were getting in the giddy up mode.
So what's next? We don't do anything. We still can yay or nay that down the road, the board.
Right, we expect a vote at one of the May meetings. We'll determine which one it is. I have not had a lot of input back from folks on this. I do, I guess when we talk about the jail bids, I'm going to talk about the Lee County Emergency Operations program that's here. So unless somebody really wants to talk about something in here, we can.
I just want to say that I did request that the capital improvement plan be put on the front page of the, I think I asked that last week, and Kyle very quickly got it up there, so people could go and view it electronically without having to go to the clerk's office, just in case they're interested.
Yeah, I would just like to add that this is a great synopsis sheet, this project summary, but if you got material that can be posted out online, the backup material that explains these projects would be very helpful. Some of these folks wouldn't
Is the whole
necessarily.
book out there?
Yes, it was put out there when it was presented to you.
So the whole thing is out there?
The whole booklet like
Okay,
that is
good,
on the
good.
website.
So if we have any comments, you want us to send them to you, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next, we're moving on to the library ordinance.
This will be much faster. Dale Talbert, Deputy County Attorney. I have with me Michael Matuchik, who is your library director, and Susan Alexander, who's the chair of the Library Board of Trustees. The item before the board tonight is a proposed amendment to the library ordinance, the county ordinance. Specifically on page 45, you will see in section 14-37 that the ordinance currently requires by the use of the word shall, 9 members. That's on page 45, I think. In responding to a request by Mr. Matuchik that I review the bylaws of the Board of Trustees, I found that the Board of Trustees consists of 7 regular members, an alternate, and an ex officio member appointed by the Board of Commissioners, a commissioner appointed by the Board of Commissioners. When talking with Mr. Matuchik about that, he said that he would rather have the ordinance changed, reducing membership to conform to their actual practice, than having their actual practice of having 9 members by their bylaws found and selected, the difficulty they've had doing that. And he will speak to that in a moment. A copy of the bylaws also is there, and if you've read it, you'll see that there also are some inconsistencies with the county's recently promulgated policy or resolution on appointments to boards and memberships. You do not need to do anything about that here. I've already informed Mr. Matuchik of those problems, and we will rewrite the bylaws to make them conform to the policies with respect to appointments, length of terms, term limits, replacement procedures, and the absences policy. That can be taken care of by their bylaws, and he knows he's got to conform. So what's here, and what's only here, is to amend the ordinance, reducing from 9 to 7 the members. Your director and Ms. Alexander may want to make a couple of comments about that. Again, from a procedural perspective, since this is an amendment of an ordinance, it can be passed, since all of you are present, by a unanimous vote. If the vote is not unanimous, but it is in favor by majority vote, then there must be one additional reading where it passes by majority vote. Can pass tonight by unanimous vote. Mr. Matuchik, Ms. Anderson, Alexander.
Thank you. Since we just recently got a full board through a couple of your appointments recently, we knew we had to look over our bylaws, so we gave them to Mr. Talbert, and he went through them very thoroughly, as you can see, and we're glad that he did, because we want to get things right. We want to be in the swim with the new directives from your board. So that was the whole idea behind that. Our reality is that for 20, 30 years, we've had 7 regular members. A few years, maybe 8 years ago, we got an alternate, and we got a county commissioner. That would have been Burton Matthews years ago, and now Mr. Pascal, who have served us very well. But that does not conform to the ordinance. So what we're asking, as Mr. Talbert said, is that the reality, we think, works very, very well. And it's a working board, as you may know. We put them to work through quiz bowls, book sales, etc. So getting 7 members who do that through the year for us, sometimes it's difficult in this day and age, but when we get really good members that we have now, we find that it's a good working mix, and we're just asking you to change that number from 9 to 7. I don't know how that number, the word 9, got there anyway, but it's there, and we just want to be right.
I would just like to add, in the past few months, as all of you are aware, we've come to you with a request for some additional or replacements on our board, and we've had difficulty finding board members. So to us, the number 7 makes much more sense than the number 9.
Move to approve the request.
Mr. Crumpton, do you have any advice to us on this one? Is this, you see a reason?
I don't see any problem with that. First time I've read the ordinance was when this was presented, and I always thought Mike was appointed by me, hired and fired by me, and then I see under section 1441, he's appointed and designated chief librarian by the board. So I do his annual review, his quarterly reviews, and all that stuff. So I was a little shocked by section 1441, but under the personnel policy, it says that he actually works for me. So there's another glaring inconsistency here. So.
We'll let you continue to do his performance appraisal, but we do want to keep him.
Well, I don't plan on firing him. So,
I have a question about the Board of Commissioners representative. You said he's an ex officio and he's not a voting member?
Well, ex officio has nothing to do with
voting.
or
I know.
not voting.
I just was curious.
It simply means that position, that member, is a member because of his or her official position.
Right.
And in working with the director, it is our intent to change their bylaws to eliminate that requirement of having a commissioner member, based upon conversation the board previously had. Now, if one of you want to volunteer and are nominated and voted on by your peers, you can sit. But we were going to take that
Well,
out.
that would be out of comport, I think, with the other boards and commissions that we have. I mean, notwithstanding the need or the merits of having the board the way it is now, virtually, if not every other board and commission we appoint to, we have an overseer in effect. We have a board of commissioners representative, and in most cases, if not all of them, he's a voting member, he or she.
Well, my only point is this is not required by statute.
No, I know that.
It's not required by the ordinance. If you want to do it, that's perfectly fine, but you don't have to do it.
Commissioner Hayes, did you have?
I was just going to ask about these committees that you have, nominating policy, projects, building and grounds, and finance. And are you able to function in those committees with just 7 members? I mean, ideally, I wish your cup runneth over with more citizens who wanted to support and serve on the board. But I know what you've been through, and I know it's tough to get good bona fide members. But therefore, are you able to these people just serve 2 or 3 different committees and you get it done?
Yes, we are, and the board does work together very well.
I had just one question. I looked at here, I couldn't tell what was the North Carolina general statutes, what was your bylaws, and what was the ordinance that we're approving the reading on. Where is the county ordinance start?
The ordinances on pages 44 through 46. The bylaws begin on page 47.
So we just adopted the general statutes as our own here. These aren't county ones, or?
No, those.
That's the county ordinance.
That's county. Code of ordinances start on page 44 in your agenda package and end on 46. So that's the entire chapter 14 of our code.
Of our code. Okay.
And I wouldn't hold up passing the change on 1441. I mean, that could be, that's just kind of a technicality that we can work through later. It's not really an issue.
Okay. Commissioner Reeves has made the motion to approve the first reading of the proposed amendment to our county library ordinance. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
He says he moved to be done unanimously.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Does this mean we have to have a second
I don't know. Did everybody vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody
Yes,
voted
ma'am.
yes, you don't.
I didn't hear any nays.
And it passed unanimously, so there won't have to be a second vote.
So we don't have to do a second reading.
John, just as a clarification, would it help to go ahead and make that change on the
No, I think it's,
Want
what
to
it,
review while we're doing it?
no, I think we're all right now.
Are you
I think-
talking about the?
I think, it doesn't say anything about firing. I think the personnel policy still says I can fire him, so, if I fire him, we'll
You
come
just
back
can't
and
hire
change the ordinance so I can hire a new one. I'm sorry, Mike, I'm just picking on you.
Section 1442 covers
I
what
would
John
like to
needs.
say that Mr. Pascal has served us well and honorably for a number of years. Just want that for the record.
Who there with you?
Thank you for coming.
A final point addressing Mr. Crumpton's comment. Page 50 has provisions from the statute authorizing the powers and duties of trustees. And number 4, by state law, gives to the Board of Trustees authority to appoint a chief librarian.
The authority, but we don't have to grant them that authority, do we?
No, we do not.
Okay. Okay, are we now down to Dwayne Brinson's portion? Amendment to Tax Management Associates for auditing tax accounts. Dwayne.
Good evening, Dwayne Brinson, Lee County Tax Administrator. We are, and I'll try to keep this succinct in an overview, we are looking to expand our current contract with Tax Management Associates. Tax Management Associates, TMA, has been doing business audits with the county since 1996. Had a good relationship, good history. This new program that they have, what they do is come in and, well, one resource is to canvass the county and find businesses that are not listed in the tax books. These are businesses that are in operation but are not paying taxes. So they come in, locate these businesses, provide us an assessment, and then we have that business on the tax books permanently or until it no longer is a business. The fee for the service is 45% because they are doing more work than just an audit.
Their fee right now is 30%, but they're going out.
That's the
and doing more.
auditing fee. That's right. On page, I'm not sure what page it is in the packet, page actually 53. You'll see that there are a number of other counties that have already adopted this program, have gone through it, and have had good results. Page 53, the little chart on page 53. These are just North Carolina counties. They also are in other states. Just wanted to show you what's happening in North Carolina. Good overview of what they do and the results that could be experienced in Lee County.
So explain one of these lines across, like Wilson County or whatever.
Okay. Wilson County, you can see the time frame, and that's actually where I was going next. From whenever, I guess, the contract is signed until the account is billed. And something else I want to point out real quickly is that we don't pay anything to TMA under this contract until we actually receive the money first. So not until we actually have the money in hand. It's kind of a win-win. We have to get the money in hand before we give it back to TMA. The original scroll, that's how many businesses are listed or were listed in that county. And I have to flip back in my chart. I'm having trouble reading that one.
Letters sent.
Letters sent, so that's how many, obviously, letters TMA sent out. The CAVS process, that's how many assessments TMA made. What they do, we have the CAVS program in-house also. What it does, it pools all similar types of businesses, and it gives an estimated assessment for what that type of business should be. The forms process, and I actually have Glenn Kuchar from TMA here, if I mess up one of these columns. The forms processed, that's just how many discoveries were made. Processed as zero, counties can, under this contract, counties can set a threshold. Example, if they discover a business and the tax value is $1,000, if we don't want to send out a tax bill for $2 or $3, we don't have to. So you come down here and in this column, process is zero. That's how many businesses they found, but that's how many businesses the county did not bill because of the threshold. And again, moving over total discovered, that's just a net result, gets the increase in discovered value. It's just a real good summary of what's been happening across North Carolina from these counties. And I think there are some more coming on board. Glenn was telling me there are some other presentations, some other boards considering this program. It's very equitable. You know, if people have to pay taxes, then everybody should have to pay taxes. So it's going in and finding businesses that are not listed currently for us.
Is this
Getting
separate
this
from
out.
our current contract with them?
It's an addendum to the current contract.
So on page, and I just caught this, on page 66 on our packet, 2A, the discovery fee, does that mean that all discoveries will now be at 45%? Because in the Wyeth issue, it wasn't the fee 35%?
It's 30% for auditing service. For this program, for the discovery program, it's the 45%.
This is
So where is that in the contract? Where does it say that that is 30%? I mean, are we,
I included the original contract, and see if I can locate it real quickly, just looking at it a few minutes ago. I included the original contract we have with Tax Management Associates and the agreement with the city that we have.
right?
Just
So
one
you
thing.
feel comfortable that there's a clarification between the two types of discoveries?
And I did have legal counsel review it.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, we've had a good relationship with TMA, and yeah, I think,
Can I add
I'd like to continue to have a good relationship with them.
absolutely.
I have one question. Why would we have businesses that are operating that wouldn't be on the tax roll?
I'll try to keep it as short as possible. We have one of the divisions in the tax office is the listings division. Currently short one staff, and even with a full staff, they have a goal of auditing previously unaudited businesses that are on the tax books but have not been audited before. We have a goal of auditing at least 5% of those businesses. We still have businesses that still have not been audited, just because of resources.
Are we talking about just auditing them, or are we talking about people starting up businesses that never report?
Right.
That's
it. That's
exactly
your
what
source.
this is.
So,
And the staff goes through newspapers, they go
I mean, don't they
through-
have to get a business license?
No,
We don't have a business license.
not for the county,
We don't.
not for the county.
Why don't?
And just because the city had a.
They just discontinued their business
Yeah, they
tax.
discontinued theirs.
But even if you live in the city of Sanford, I don't believe you have to get any kind of a business license. Is that correct?
The privileged license.
Yeah, some cities you do.
Commissioner Parks, I can give you an example without calling any names. We had a business that had already been established. It had expanded to the point that it looked like a small city by the time we learned anything about the new additions that they made. So they operated under the original business, but expanded beyond that original capacity. We just happened to pick it up accidentally is what we did. So it can happen. Sort of like the houses they mentioned in the flyover.
So,
business, personal property.
so the process,
We don't see a deed on these people.
That's right. You don't get documents on them.
And what we do, we review the newspaper daily. Any going out of business sales, any new businesses offering promotions, we try to catch that stuff. But we don't do any field canvassing or any of the resources TMA has. What they're going to do is it's almost like a spider web. Canvassing is just one resource. We give them a list of businesses that are listed with us. They use all the resources, make phone calls to businesses, canvass the county, match up the two, and then, move forward from that respect. Sorry, Mr. Hayes, did you?
no, that's the process is something that I was interested in, what they actually do, and there's a system, a model for doing this in all counties presumably, and it's very thorough. I was just looking at the numbers, and without any real science behind it, it looked to me like if we were to compare ourselves with any of these other counties, and just sort of grossly taking Mecklenburg as the big county, and right on down the line, I mean, it would seem that there could be $15 to $20 million that would accrue to Lee County. If this is any guide at all, that's shooting in the dark, but it makes the point, these other counties, that this service does something that you simply don't have the resources to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Sounds to me like it's a win-win. I mean, we're not gonna spend anything till they make us some money.
That's exactly right.
I mean.
And until we
that's
actually
pretty
get the
simple.
money in hand.
Right.
That's right.
I do have one question. Right now, we're paying, is it 30, 35 as an audit?
30% for all.
30%. Now, if that business is in the city of Sanford, do they share in that cost? Or do they
Yeah.
get the full benefit of us paying for the audit and?
No, ma'am, they do,
Sure, they do.
they share. They
Because-
pay their pro rata share of whatever value, is discovered.
Okay.
Just take whatever the city tax rate may be at that time, divided by the total tax rate. It's just a pro rata share, so yeah, they do.
So the portions in here that relate to, in consideration of the county's costs, the city agrees to reimburse. That's not gonna be anything new to the city. They understand that. Okay. What's the,
Motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve, I think, we're actually approving your movement to go forward with the contract, right?
Yes, sir, the
Addendum.
addendum to the
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah, I move that we approve the addendum.
okay, motion is made to approve the addendum to the contract. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. It's unanimous again, Gabriel.
Thank you.
We're on a roll.
Moving forward.
Moving forward.
9 o'clock.
Okay, John, you're next with item E, discussion on retirement incentive plan.
It seems like a long time ago I was working on the budget. But as I'm going through the budget, it's apparent that elimination of some headcount in the county will help us greatly in balancing the budget. We used the retirement incentive plan 2 years ago with good success. I didn't make this retirement incentive program quite as lucrative on the one-time payout bonus as we did a couple years ago. I think we were pretty rich in that incentive a couple of years ago, but we did add a couple of things based on some discussion with folks. We have some employees who are age 65 or older who don't have 20 years of service, but the Medicare supplement package may entice them to retire. And also we have some folks that cover spouses who currently we do not allow spouses to continue coverage once our employee retires. City of Sanford offers that number 5 on page 72, and there were some folks that might be enticing to them. So we lowered the cash payout under item 1 to $500 for every 5 years of service, and right there before the paragraph, before the parentheses, that should say to Lee County. That's years of service to the county, not in the local government retirement system or anything like that. So we would bring their longevity payment forward from, I guess that's towards the end of November to the day they retire, and offer the early retirement health insurance benefit to folks who are 50 instead of 55. So just try to get, we don't need as many employees to retire as we did a couple years ago, but I have a goal of trying to have 10 to 12 positions open come July 1st to try to make my plan work to make this move into the next fiscal year. I will say that I think under my report I mentioned budget a little bit, but we were a little bit further out than I had anticipated after the first round of meetings with the department heads and the first round of cuts. So I'm still waiting under the Board of Education's request to finalize my budget, and I can already see that I'm going to have to do some creative things to get things balanced.
One question, John. I
Yes,
guess
sir.
probably you wouldn't have an idea until people submitted their request as to whether some of those people might be critical employees that you'd have to replace.
What I've looked at is the people that are eligible. I've taken a look at their positions, and some of those positions would have to be replaced. My intent would be to try to replace those people internally from other positions, move people into positions, and then open up, there are other positions that may be less critical. So we have identified some of that and have already spoken to some people about their positions. And we do have some positions open. Dwayne just talked about his position and listing, you know, and we have frozen that one. And I told him there was a chance he would lose that position come July 1st, you know, depending upon the retirees. So we have a few open right now.
So you've actually done some preliminary surveying to identify potential candidates, and you have some reasonable confidence that you're going to be able to achieve your goals if we approve this?
Yes, sir.
And you say here it's a one-time offer, so you mean to the end of the fiscal year?
Well, they have to, I think in it says they have to notify us by May 10th. So that's the goal. We want them to notify us by May 10th. So that gives them, you know, not quite 4 weeks, but some of them they already know this is coming, and there have already been some discussions, and they're kind of waiting on you to vote on this to really get HR to look into what their payouts would be from the retirement system and that kind of stuff.
This is kind of an aside, have we also suggested this to the school system?
I think the governor has put a plan forward. So I think did the governor not put a plan forward for early retirement? I think she has. I think she has done something on that regard. So I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to that.
Okay. Yes, I need a motion here. Okay. Motion has been made to approve the retirement incentive plan as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Another one for the books, Gail. Okay.
All right.
Are we to the jail?
Yes, ma'am. And I thank Captain Everett for hanging around on this tonight. He has been one of the folks who's been working all weekend for the sheriff on the storm incident. So for him to hang out with us for 3 hours is pretty impressive. But I will say that the bids that we received on the courthouse, on the jail renovations, it was kind of odd. I actually felt that the lighting contract would be the one that would be $70,000, and that the padded cell would be the one that was around $20,000. And actually, the bids got flip-flopped. The padded cell is no longer a consideration because the grant was only like $30,000. So that left the lighting project, and I'm not real excited about the lighting project bids.
I got a question.
To say the truth. Yes, sir.
I asked last time that we discussed this, who made this requirement and under what law that they could go back and make a requirement for a change to a building that's already been built and approved?
Well, I had our attorneys research that, and at the time the building was built, this particular part of the building code was in place. The inspector missed it, our architect missed it, and then a recent inspector caught it and said that at the time the building was built, this should have occurred, and they can require it to be done for us to keep those cells in use. So,
well, now, did they inspect the building after it was completed?
Oh, absolutely. They do
They
as
made a mistake too, then, right?
But it was generations ago. When you consider the people that are up there now in those positions, different folks, and it's not even DOC, it's DHHS.
There's
facilities.
always a record of it, though.
Well, my preference at this point is, we have a project in the capital improvement plan for the EOC and the basement renovations at the courthouse. Based on the cost for setup increase that occurred to get just the lighting project done, it would probably make more sense if we just rejected all of these bids, rolled those bids into the basement renovation project, and actually get going on the basement project. If of all the things that have occurred this weekend, and of all the things that didn't really go all that well, communications was one of them. not having, setting up the EOC and not having great access to internet service, not having dedicated phone lines for people already set up for people to call in, and that you heard Shane today, here we are 48 hours later, we're still trying to set up phone lines for people to be able to call us, get the numbers out and that kind of stuff. We should already have that stuff in place. And one of the reasons we're down at the training facility is space. The city hall, if we would not have been able to set up and do what we're doing in City Hall. I have said repeatedly that we had outgrown it. One of the things we need to do first on the basement project is I need y'all to authorize me to write a letter to the 911 board outlining the project that we have and asking their permission to use the 50% of the fund balance from July 1st, 2010 that was in the 911 fund that they authorized for us to use. I'd like to go ahead and send that letter to them and ask their board to approve that project. And
I'll make that motion right now that we give him that authority.
Do we want to just have a motion, or we want to dual a motion to do that plus rebid?
Reject these.
No, I would take that
Reject the
separate,
bid.
that's a separate issue, just for him to write that letter. I'd let him do that. And then-
Motion has been made. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay.
Now, what you were saying, John, about rolling this in, I think that if you rolled this in, and then you maybe gave just a suggestion to consider, if we need that padded cell, if we still need it, we can still get that grant money, to maybe try that again with maybe some different language. I don't know if our head jailer has an opinion about that, but I think if they felt like they needed it and could still get it, that was one of necessity I thought we needed. The natural light, I'm with, I think, Commissioner Parks, that's a ridiculous requirement, and I think we should be trying to get a waiver from DHHS secretary from having to do that thing, given the history of that. But the padded cell issue was more of concern to me, because I think there's a true justification for that.
we have.
I would hope that you could get, if you do that, John, these two former projects would probably be from subs.
Yeah.
Right.
From subs.
There you go.
But that'd be okay if if we could get a good price on it.
And I'd like to go ahead and well, at a future meeting, probably one of the May meetings, go ahead and bring the architect in, show you the schematic that he's done, and then move from the schematic into actual architectural services and get going. And we have his initial estimate between the two funds, it's less than 500,000 now that we transferred 2 years ago, and then this 625,000. We have enough money to do the renovations in the basement and get it going. So, yes, sir.
What year was this, was the original, the building built and this oversight took place?
I was here as finance officer when we borrowed the money. That was 1991, and I think we occupied the building in 1993, 94. Yeah, so, yeah.
Mr. Ed, do you have some things you'd like to say? We've had you sitting here. We'll just give you a chance to get up and stretch.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. The funding, the grant funding is from the Recovery Act. January 2012, that funding will be non-existing. So that funding was only about $17,000 that was available. So we won't have access to that particular grant funding. There may be other grants that come along in the future, but not that money.
The architect did tell me that he could probably have this project out to bid in 90 to 120 days. Once we gave him the go-ahead.
So if we
Chief,
got it
that
out
was
then,
on
could
the
we
padded
still-
cell part you're talking about?
Yes.
That's only for the padded cell, yes, sir.
And the natural light, what's your opinion on that natural light requirement? No, honestly, what's your opinion on it?
It's something we need to do.
Is it?
There are 8 cells that's being utilized. That's our isolation area. Typically, those are administrative segregated inmates that either can't get along with other inmates. So we definitely have to have that. That's a high security area for us. 3 of those cells are basically used all the time for inmates that have medical needs that can't be housed anywhere else in the facility. So it's a must that be done to come into compliance with the state.
That's
The
just
state
so
hasn't-
we can use it. That's just so we can use it.
Yes, that's 8 cells.
Okay.
Our total capacity is 126.
Well, I guess the question I have is, we've got lighting in there. Why do we need natural lighting?
Well, the regulation requires it, but I guess the question I would have for you is, it went 17 years and we didn't have natural light. Now, all of a sudden, after 17 years, or whatever the time period is, we got to have natural light. My argument is, I agree we need to have it, but why can't we wait until we bundle this uplift for natural light in when we're doing another major project in the jail, where it'll be less costly to do it as a part of a larger scale contract?
I totally agree with you. There has never been a stipulation as to the time frame that we have to have that.
Right.
This over a year and a half ago is when it was first discovered. So there has not been a time frame. What the jail inspector did tell me personally is that as long as they see us working towards taking care and fixing the problem, then we'll have all the time in the world to do it. I'm sure.
But what we've approved just a moment ago allows Mr. Crumpton to move forward.
No, that was a 911 piece, though.
That was the EOC and the
I thought you were going to use that as an opportunity to bundle.
Yes, sir. I'm going to add that. We'll go ahead. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and bid the padded cell again either. And one of the things that made the padded cell bid so expensive was the plumbing.
Yeah.
And we really need to get.
But I think a separate motion's in order still, and that motion would be that we not go forward with this natural light project until it's bundled with a larger scale project. Because I think what we've told him to do is to write the 911 letter, but I think we still need a motion to bundle this project so we get more value for the taxpayers out of the larger scale. Yeah, I'm moving that we make that. That we reject the recommendation here to proceed with a natural light uplift and instead bundle that with the EOC project that's looming.
I thought we'd already rejected this.
No.
Okay, so your motion is
We bundle this with the EOC project.
And reject the bids.
And reject the bids.
All right, Captain, before you sit down,
Sir.
what is that padded cell about? I can't recall offhand.
We just saw the need to be able to put a padded cell in to keep inmates that may have been suicidal or had the ability to cause harm to themselves, either by hitting their head against a hard object, to find a way to protect them.
Well, that's what I thought. Ain't you buy a football helmet?
It doesn't work, they dig it up. One that's worked in a psychiatric unit, it's needed.
There's actually a cheaper solution to that.
That's what I want to hear.
That's what he was gunning
So
for.
we're actually investigating that. There's a lot more to go along with it though.
All right.
A motion has been made to reject the proposal in our packet and to bundle it in with the Emergency Operations Center's specifications and to be bid out. Is that the correct plan here? Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. So now we're down to playground. Is that correct?
John Payne and playground equipment. And while John is coming up here, one of the things I failed to report earlier on the storm issues is that we've had a catastrophic damage at Buchanan Park. We have a park that is not functionable at this point, and we have the insurance adjuster coming out to it tomorrow, but we lost all the light poles but one for the ball field.
Every tree in the park.
Every tree in the park.
Where's that located, John?
It's on Cameron Drive, down behind, well, it's across the street from the apartments.
That you saw the
were-
apartments
that were
on the
damaged.
picture
Yeah.
there.
They were actually taking that picture from the park, Mr. Parks, yeah.
So we'll be trying to address that. So, John Boyd. It's up to you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners. We were looking at doing an upgrade of the Sand Lee Park playground. And when we wound up with some extra money, $10,000 doesn't do a whole lot. And that's what was in the budget to relocate our current playground, because the current playground is next to the drive that goes around the nature center, if you've been out there. And it was originally installed in 1980. I think they added a piece of equipment in 1985, and that's pretty much been it. Steve's been patching it. Ranger Steve Godfrey out there has been patching it and kind of putting it back together. But it's lived its useful life. And what we're proposing with this plan is to move that playground unit across the stream to the edge of the meadow over there. If you're coming into the park, it's on the right-hand side, and it will back up to the hill, and the tent campground driveway will actually access the playground from the bridge that Boy Scouts built over there. The reason we want to put it over there, we get shade in the afternoon there. It will be cooler, it'll be a more enjoyable stay. And there will be several natural elements. We plan to locate some boulders, and we've already located some boulders within the park to make it natural, because we do have a lot of weddings in that meadow throughout the year, and folks come out and take pictures throughout the year. Even if their wedding is not at Sand Lee, they'll come out and take wedding pictures at Sand Lee. And so that's, it'll create just a very nice viewscape there, and it'll be a natural, more of a natural play area. For instance, I think you've got a couple, you've got a plan view and probably a 3D view in your package.
Yep.
Of the proposal. It looks like that slide is just levitating in the air, but it's not. Actually, that slide will be built into the hill, and we will have steps going up to it, so it'll be natural. This company has put in there are about 7 of those that are around the state. Raleigh has one, I think Greensboro has one, but they're actually built into a hill, so that it looks more natural, it flows more natural. The good thing is you can reduce your fall zone area, because you're not falling anywhere. There's no fall height with the slide being built into the actual grade.
You might also want to talk about the pricing on this equipment and how we got that pricing.
Okay, we got this pricing, Bliss Products and Game Time, which is Cunningham Associates out of Charlotte, are, we have done business with Game Time in the past, and they've been very good. They've provided very good service and installation and a quality product. So we were happy with them from the get-go. But Bliss Products represents a number of other companies, and we were looking for more of a natural type, a natural playground with a natural viewscape. The interesting thing about this is both Cunningham and Bliss Products, their playground equipment is manufactured in the same plant. It's just under a different name. Both products are manufactured by Playcore. But it's just that Bliss Products represents more diversified companies that kind of fit that natural theme that we were looking for. Plus the fact that the representative from Bliss made, I think, 4 visits to the park to look at doing a layout that would make us happy, that would complement the park and the many uses that we have, to not take away the viewscape from the meadow for our weddings, because it is a big deal for folks to come out there and to have a wedding at Sand Lee Park. And it's also a big deal for them to come out and be able to have pictures made.
Do we charge for the weddings?
Yes, sir. We charge a standard rental fee for a room, the same as any other, whether it's a family reunion, a birthday party, or whatever it is. If they want the multipurpose room, then we will rent them that. If they want the meadow, we'll rent them the meadow.
So is there any estimate on, a projection or from past history, we get this all set up and everything, whether at some point in time it actually pays for itself?
I don't have any
Playground
projections
equipment's
for
not
that.
going to, I don't imagine, would it?
Well, I mean, no, if it draws people there for weddings and things, parties and things like that, it could.
We're going to review the fee structure in the budget for Parks and Rec, but typically Parks and Recreation departments for cities and counties are not money makers or even break-even propositions, and we'll discuss that in the budget, and you'll see that. But I did recommend to John that he talk to his board about fee increases this year, really the emphasis there was to at least cover some of the equipment cost of putting people out there and trying to cover some of our costs.
We actually ran 3 scenarios. One, what a slight increase would do, and just kept adding elements to it, and then what a total payback would cost. And, you know, that would mean eliminating some programs because folks just wouldn't be able to afford them.
Did you do this by competitive bid, or did you just single out for a sole source on Bliss products?
It's through a purchasing cooperative. There are a number of them around the country now. There's U.S. Communities, and this particular purchasing co-op is TCPN, the Cooperative Purchasing Network. Bliss Products is represented, some of their manufacturers that they represent is under U.S. Communities, where, and the same thing, they're under
Similar
two
to a
purchasing
GSA
networks.
type purchase
Yes,
is
sir.
what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay, well, see,
That's what it is.
here's one concern I have, and I'm not saying that this is not a good thing to do, because I think playground equipment is actually, I think, perhaps a moneymaker for you. It brings parents, it brings paid attendance in there. My concern is that GSA contracts like the federal government uses, you'll get people that'll go out and they'll pay that flat fee, and there's no competition whatsoever, other than what they did to get on the list. I see in here, this playground equipment is $2,500 just in the freight to bring it in here. And that may or may not be reasonable, but if this was somehow done competitively, or you had local vendors quote you a bid to do something very similar to this, I dare say that you might find somebody that says, I could beat $40,000.
Right.
And now, that's not to say their quality of workmanship might be as good, but it's not done competitively, and I think competitive bids there's some merit in trying to do those things.
And actually, these products have gone to bid. They have gone to bid. Charlotte Mecklenburg is one source for bidding playground equipment, especially for U.S. Communities. And TCPN is the same, where you have a large area, a large metropolitan area that bids this equipment, and these companies agree that they will provide that to anybody who is a member of that purchasing cooperative. And there's a 1.5% fee on the wholesale side. Discounts range anywhere from 15 to 25% that I've seen, depending on the equipment that you're looking at.
I guess this is a question for John. Is the funds that we saved on the San Lee Park Dam modification project, could those be used to pay for this?
This is already appropriated.
That is what that is for. We are using funds within that capital project fund to buy the equipment and finish that project out.
Yeah, I guess the concern I have is, I've seen a lot of criticism over the school board using funds that they allocated to go on a trip out to San Francisco. Will we come under the same scrutiny for using funds at this critical time in our budget to buy playground equipment? And I have the same concern on the old equipment as to whether we'd be liable under safety. So you see where I'm trying to balance whether for or against.
Right. I understand the concern. We're coming to the end of the project, and these were things that we had looked at when we developed the project, and this is the last thing on the list. So It's really whether that, we want to finish it out with this or leave this as something that, we will need to do in the future. I would say that, staff brought this project in under budget. The Sand Lee Dam project is under budget.
Okay.
And there's not.
I like that.
There was a lot of great work involved in that, and I think, staff, I don't think ever thought we would get that project finished. And
Well, I see how the staff out there take care of it, and I've been impressed all along. And
it's probably one of our most
I just
used
have
parks.
this- I just have this one concern.
Well, I asked for it to be pulled from consent because I personally don't feel that the timing is right.
Right.
I think that there are too many issues on the table for this board to start spending. 39,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money because you have it, but if we didn't have 39,000, we really have a problem. So, and in addition to that, we now have the Buchanan Park situation that has just come upon us, and that we would be considering doing something down there as well. So 39,000 that we spend here because we saved it is not the best use of the funds at this time. I think we get further down the road in our budget. I'm not against what you're proposing by any means, but I do think this is a good time for Lee County to kind of hold his checkbook in check until we see what we got before us.
Yeah, especially with the destruction that we've just had, not knowing what we're gonna do.
Question,
But then
I'd like to ask somebody, did you have a prior estimate on the cost? Did you have a prior estimate before you got your bids on what the cost was gonna be, John?
I would say we had an idea.
We had a
And I don't
reasonable
think-
idea
yeah.
of the amount of money that we would have to work with. And that's the assumption that we went on in entertaining the two companies. Both Game Time sent a representative down. We looked at the project, gave him a description of it, and the Bliss Products representative, she actually came down on 4 occasions because she saw this as an opportunity to put something special on the ground at Sand Lee Park. And, she put the extra time into it to give us the project and get it under our target budget of $40,000.
I have a
I
question.
think Doc, when we approved the project budget, the playground equipment was not in it. And the reason it was not in it was to make sure, because we were dealing with renovation work of a dam. And there were a lot of uncertainties. It was something that we knew we wanted to do. But we waited to the end of the project till we, had closed it out before we committed to doing the park equipment. So, we had a number in our mind, it was probably 25 to 30,000. We ended up, requesting to spend a little bit more, to put a quality product on the ground there. But, it was really to make sure that we had money left in the project fund before we committed.
So a quality project or piece to put in can occur again in the future. I think you've answered most of the questions, but I was wondering how this was sort of planned and if it was just sort of an opportunity. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is something that in the future you can come back to, right?
Yes,
Because if it was a big part of your plan, if it was a top priority or something that you had been wanting to have, that puts a different light on it other than if you just discovered this balance and
Okay,
therefore you said this is a great chance to do this.
Right, let me back up just a little bit. I had $10,000 in this year's budget to move the playground from its current location over to that meadow area. I mean, that was our intention all along. The only thing is, that equipment's been in there for 30 years, And by the time we'd moved it, Steve has had to go back in and replace some of the wood. This is a wooden structure. Yes, it's heavy timbers and that sort of thing, but still, over time, it's taken its wear and tear. The other issue that we have is that we have sand as a fall zone area over there, and that's not ADA. And so, you know, grandfather, if we'd moved it, we'd had to put different fall zone material under there anyway. Our new design incorporates both the sand element that the kids love to play in and gives us the fall zone protection and ADA accessibility for wheelchairs. That was the whole point, because it's a funny thing. A mom had 2 children out there, and the little boy was sitting in the sand. He was playing. She said, we come out here because this is the only playground in Lee County where there's sand that he can play in. So, you know, we've incorporated sand into the new design as well. You know, trying to get those elements and that sort of thing. But I certainly understand Commissioner Reeves about perception and, you know.
And I got some more I'm gonna add when they finish asking questions.
Okay.
You know, and I hear what I hear is we've earned the right to go ahead and do this project now. And I'm not against you doing the project, but doing it now is what I oppose. I didn't say take the money away from you. I simply said, I don't think this is a good time to go ahead and commit to do this.
Okay.
I believe that we could ask some of these companies, or the company you're dealing with, to extend the offer for the next 60 days, for example, or to find out if they will donate something because of what we've already gone through.
Right.
I really don't think we ought to be about the business of moving forward because we come upon this money. I think this board needs to seriously consider the timing of everything, get our important issues on the table, and then, again, I'm not saying do away with your money, but I don't think we ought to promise it to move forward at this point in time.
You want to make a motion?
I want to ask John, do you think they'd hold this proposal for 90 days for you, John?
I'm not sure. We could go back and try again.
The same as Commissioner Womack mentioned a few minutes ago
Right.
about DHHS. Have we asked for a waiver on the natural sunlight? Have we said we can't do it right now? Will you allow us to do it in 2012, 2013? We've done none of those things that I know of, and this is what concerns me.
But the deputy said that he didn't have a deadline on the natural light.
And that's correct. And he said he worked with us as long as we know we were trying to do something.
That's right.
Well, let's do something by saying we can do it 2012,
There you go.
2013.
Right, good point.
And put him on notice about that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't oppose your project. I don't know if the money is in your account or
It's in the capital project fund.
capital project fund. But I think that we ought to hold off for the next 60 days. We ought to be in a good position to talk about where we are on the
Why
budget.
don't you make a motion, Rob?
I so move.
So the motion is to
Revisit.
Table.
Yeah.
to table this,
Yes.
revisit it. Does it have to be done at the next meeting if we table it, or?
No.
No.
We're talking about for 60 days or 90 days?
Yeah, when we get to the final budget.
Budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come back in 100 days, it's rejected.
Okay.
Well, it's 3 months, so.
Motion has been made to postpone this, consideration of this at this time. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
And I've lost my, I think-
Item I, resolution for supporting public education in Lee County.
Okay.
I'll take it. We had the original resolution that's on page 33 was verbatim from the school board's resolution. And after review, our attorneys recommended that our resolution become more from a county perspective and less from the school perspective. So that was the reason for the change.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why did we, I thought we had already approved and sent one.
It's in a letter.
Yeah, we approved the
So
letter.
we needed the resolution rather than.
Right, and I believe the chairman of the school board wanted a resolution from us.
Okay, I move that it be accepted.
The revised version?
Yes, the revised version.
Motion has been made to accept the revised resolution that you received. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Resolution passes. Now where are we? Manager's report.
Well, no, Lisa's finance director.
I'll let her start first.
I thought her
You're
documents.
gonna file overtime pay?
I'm gonna file a suit if this thing goes to 10 o'clock.
Okay, I will talk fast, which is not a problem for me,
All right.
but I do want to tell you that Joyce and I are taking dibs on the padded cell at the jail because we have no natural light, and we're really starting to think that, we're gonna be banging our heads against the wall with the budget and everything, so.
The sheriff back in here. I hear it every day. Natural light in their offices.
We figured Dwayne could.
Mr. Holt just said he wanted to get in on it too.
This is worth the 30 seconds. I promise you that those hardcore guys in the jail can't get along with anyone are going to get natural light, and our hardworking employees back here aren't getting any.
And stuff,
All of
so.
them can get a football helmet.
Y'all get a football.
Make their own natural light.
Anyway, on to, I guess, more serious note. You have before you the March 2011 financial report. As you can see there, we are still just a little bit behind where we were on tax collections the previous year. As far as expenditures go, 75% was our target, and we have finally have no departments over 75%. We have finally balanced out in those departments that had the dues and things that were, throwing them out of balance in the insurance bills. So this month we have nobody that is out over that target. As far as other revenues go, you can see where we still have some concerns. Obviously, investment income is not coming back this year, and we'll probably do nothing to get worse, if it can get any worse. Restricted intergovernmental, we know there have been some cutbacks there from the state level, but you should see a similar cutback on the expenditure side. And so unless you have questions on that, I'll go through the sales tax report that I just passed out. Again, I apologize for it not being in the agenda. The information was not available in time.
Lisa, let me ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
On the investment stuff. It's going down. All of us can see that on the wall. Is there any other thing that we can do to, any other kind of vehicle that we can use to sort of preserve what we have?
We are restricted somewhat by the state and what we can invest in. And then there are some things out there that, in my opinion, are very risky that our policy does somewhat allow that we have never invested in here in Lee County. And so I'm hesitant to do that. We are actually getting a very good deal from First Citizens Bank right now. Our interest rate is above what they had quoted us. They haven't exactly figured out why, but they are not changing it on me yet. So until it's figured out somewhere higher up and they say it has to be changed, they are leaving it at the higher rate. So we are very happy about that. It's just, CDs, things normal. We usually do treasury paper, our treasuries, commercial paper and CDs. And, Debbie is constantly checking, my assistant finance director is constantly checking those and trying to make sure we get the best rates possible. It's just, it's not out there. And we don't want to tie up our money for a very long period of time. Plus our policy is restricted in that.
Okay. Thank you.
On sales tax, welcome to the sales tax roller coaster. Last month was the best month we've had in several years. This month we fall right back down, so we've hit hopefully the bottom again of that roller coaster ride. So we are still, as you can see down at the bottom, ahead of where our budget projections would put us at this point. We will continue to monitor it. I have not added the projections that we've done on that to the schedule. I'll have that on the next month's schedule so you can see where we are where those numbers put us compared to what we are projecting in the budget process for this year.
Year on year, we were still ahead, January, but, we were warned by the state that those would be down, and then we also were warned that February's numbers would be down. But they said numbers would improve into March. So as Lisa said, we're on the sales tax roller coaster right now. There's not a lot of consistency, and it makes it very frustrating for us.
Does the state, how much percentage do they give us back on sales tax collection?
We get, remember, there's several different pots. There's the per capita pot, or the point of distribution pot, that all the money goes into Lee County's pot. They do keep a collection fee, for lack of a better word, or some charges, and I cannot quote you those percentages off the top of my head. I'll be glad to send an email out to you and tell you what everything is if you would like to
Do we
get
collect
that.
them, or does the state?
The state collects everything. All sales tax is submitted to North Carolina Department of Revenue, and they handle the distribution. And then, of course, it is distributed between the city, the town of Broadway, and the county, based on our populations. Then you have Article 40, which is still on a per capita distribution, so all the money from across the state of North Carolina is thrown into a pot and distributed amongst the various counties based on the population, and then distributed in those appropriate counties by either population or ad valorem, depending on the county method. Article 42 is point of distribution again. It all goes into the same pot. And then, of course, you have the Article 46 now that is all, point of distribution again, all Lee County. So when it's collected, but there are collection fees associated with each one of those that the state withholds from our pot. And then, of course, you've got the hold harmless from the Article 44 reduction. That I cannot.
I understand where she's coming from.
I can't even get numbers to back up how they calculate it.
Okay.
So.
They could be calculating, we should probably have them audited, huh?
I will tell you, over the years, and Mr. Crumpton has seen these notices too, that since they've made all the changes with Article 44 repeal, or the removal of it to the state, changes in Article 40s and 42 for per capita distribution, it is not unusual for us to get a notification that there has been something done wrong and they're having to go back and make adjustments.
Yeah.
So they're not been very costly to us here in Lee County, but it has happened several times over the last 5 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Mr. Crumpton,
I'm going to try to make this quick. In my report, I talk about the budgetary issues, and I'll keep bringing this up until people, I guess, really understand the impact. But as we were going through the budget, I was trying to figure out why we were so short. And so we ended up concentrating on our debt service and the projections that we had made when we borrowed money for the Sandley Middle School. And not getting the 2% growth in our property tax revenues and 4% growth in sales tax revenues, and then losing the $600,000 from the state on the ADM corporate income tax, which actually on our debt schedules in the coming year would have been would have grown to over $700,000 at that rate. Remember we borrowed that money for the Sandley Middle School without a tax increase. So here we are. Not only did we not get the growth, we actually declined in the revenue, and that is really what made the big gap. So, we've been covering that the last couple of years, some one-time money from the capital project fund, and I guess that's a good thing when we don't spend all the money in the capital project funds, because it can help us with debt service until those monies are exhausted. But we're paying the piper for school construction right now. So I know where the school board is transitioning to want to talk about current expense. I'm still stuck back here on debt service and how to pay for debt service, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, I just caution everybody that, we're going to have a tough go in our budget. Ongoing issues, the animal control ordinance, revisions. The committee met on March 30th, and after I wrote this, I did get an email. I think they're meeting Wednesday night.
I believe it's tomorrow, Doc.
It may be.
I think it was the 19th. Is the 19th tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night.
Maybe tomorrow, yeah.
So they are meeting tomorrow night. We're hopeful that will be their last meeting, and then we'll send that back to us. Going on to Sandley Dam renovations, we received the final, I have here preliminary approval. We have now received the final approval, and we were able to close the relief valve and started filling the lower pond. And Fish and Wildlife Commission is scheduling to bring in the replacement fish for the lower pond. So it's hey, there have been a lot of people in the upper pond because we took the fish from the lower pond and moved it to the upper pond, and
Oh,
It's
their
been-
salary expectations are lower.
You gotta have a free fishing day for kids on the 30th when you do that.
Yes, sir. Actually, they're providing fishing lessons and fly fishing lessons for the adults.
Very good.
So that's part of the program on the 30th. We still have the pool issues. I think we finally have figured out the pool issues at OT Sloan, and we are moving fast and furiously to have OT Sloan pool open. Haven't heard anything on the indoor iron furnace since my last report. I have been talking with Chuck Dumas quite a bit. Actually, I talked to Chuck this morning about DOT pickup on secondary roads, and we did not discuss this issue, but we will be ready for May 2nd to do that. And we received a favorable letter from the EDA on the $800,000 grant request for the road improvements and renovations to the Transmatic building. We sent that letter to our Congress delegation, and they have written letters of support for the project. And now that they've passed their budget, I am hopeful that we will, I guess they passed their budget, or they're in the process of it. When they pass their final budget, those funds should be there, and we should be moving on. We don't have any additional RFQs coming up right now. Obviously, we're going to have an ongoing issue out at with the storm-related issues. One thing I did not do when we were all the thanks and everything, I need to thank the board for their support for the staff during this time. You all got left out there, and we should never leave you all out, especially with the support we get from y'all. I don't know, Gaynell, did they tell you whether or not the graded exercise on the 26th was going to be canceled?
Not for sure. They're thinking about it, but they haven't made a decision.
Some of the preliminary events that were supposed to occur this week before the exercise did get canceled, but I think there's a belief that that graded exercise should go through. I mean, obviously we have some things going on, but I think they believe they should go forward with it. So, upcoming meetings for y'all, and the last thing is, since we are delayed with the final vote from the Board of Education till May 10th for their budget that will come to us. I asked that we change the second meeting in May from May 16th to May 23rd, so I can send my budget to you all the time. It says budget public hearing, but that's not right. That would make the budget public hearing on June 6th. So I would present on May 23rd and have the budget public hearing on June 6th, if y'all would approve the delay from the 16th to the 23rd. And that's the last thing I have.
Need a motion to?
I think it would be best if we go ahead and do that. That way Gaynell and I can change the schedules and let everybody know when we're going to do that.
So moved that we move the meeting to May 23rd.
Motion has been made. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passed.
And that's it for me.
Okay, Commissioner comments? Commissioner Reeves?
Well, I'd just like to offer my sincere appreciation for the Lee County staff and their efforts over the weekend in handling the tragedies that we've experienced, and my condolences to the families that lost loved ones, as well as the folks who lost their homes. Secondly, I would like to ask, I think I received something from Commissioner Womack on the EDC situation. In the minutes I read that there's a proposal for an additional staff person. Or is that?
In their budget, their board asked for an additional staff person.
Oh, yeah.
And in my,
I know what you're talking about now. You're talking about the copy of the minutes from the EDC meeting where they were requesting an additional staff member. Yeah, it was in their budget.
Yeah. And as well as the article regarding the folks moving to Halifax. I'm very interested in knowing more about what is going on out there.
due to the extended nature of this meeting, I won't even try to comment on that tonight. I would like to take an opportunity. Maybe what I'll do is just do a summary email to all the commissioners if that's acceptable, and then it can be brought back up on the agenda for the next meeting if it needs to be further discussed. Is that satisfactory? Okay, I want to echo.
I have one other comment. No more of these long meetings. These meetings are getting ridiculous, 10 o'clock at night. It's going too far. I'm finished.
Was that your comment?
Good comment. I echo Commissioner Reeves' sentiments about the volunteer efforts and the county staff's commitment. I also want to recognize the Baptist Men's Association for the incredible work they've done in the last 24 hours. Just unbelievable, almost miraculous work out in the St. Andrews area. First Apostolic Church for what they're doing out there, taking meals and water around to places. Rufus's Barbecue from Goldston down here serving at the corner of St. Andrews and Lemon Springs, incredible. Folks came down and donating all of that stuff. They're feeding hundreds of people down there for nothing. Just an incredible effort. And then I want to commend Bill Horner and the publisher of the Sanford Herald for doing that special edition today, and then distributing those papers out there to folks that have and a lack of information. Getting this special edition, they almost never publish on Monday. Put that special edition out today to summarize what's going on. It's probably the most informative piece that's gotten out in the last 48 hours, and you got that distributed all throughout those affected areas. And I want to commend the Herald for doing that. I think that's a great effort. One other point I wanted in the commissioners' packets tonight, there was a concept paper that I put together about the citizens panels, taking into account some comments Commissioner Parks made last meeting and a lot of the public comment we heard. I would like to have my fellow commissioners take a deep breath and consider whether or not we might be well served by having these commissioners panels. Take a look at that concept paper. I don't think it adds any more time or complexity to the budget process, but it may actually give us some really good ideas and some great feedback. And I'm wide open to any suggestions you have to make that a better concept. And that's it.
Well, I'm not going to have a lot to say other than let's keep our fellow Lee Countyans that suffered for this tragedy in our prayers.
John, the only comment, and I'll move on here. Do we have lots of these?
If y'all read it and it was acceptable and we didn't need to add anything, I was going to run them in the morning. Great.
Because I'm walking neighborhoods tomorrow.
There you go.
And I'd like to be able to hand this out with information and numbers, so.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's the one we're going to go with. You know, I had a couple of drafts during the day today, and every time I was getting ready to tell staff here to go ahead and print them, something changed.
Well, that's a good one. That's
Yeah,
got a lot of good
I'd
info.
like to get some also. Can we pick them up here, John?
We'll actually have them over at the EOC after they're printed here. I'll be taking them all over at the training facility at the old airport.
Okay.
John, also, if you will, how I didn't write them down tonight, the numbers. I've got a lot of people that's called me that own construction equipment that said, we'd like to help. Some of them, I'm talking about they volunteering their time and their equipment, they'll volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
If we have some individuals that need help, just individuals, also, I can put my hands on some funds. If I want to know the best place to put those funds. I don't want to just put those funds out there.
If
I
you'll
put them where they're needed.
If you'll come by the EOC tomorrow over at the airport, I'll hook you up with Michelle Bullard.
Okay.
And she will guide you in the best direction. She did a phenomenal job today handling the phone calls from people who had those same interests as you. So, she was trained as part of the EOC operations on what's called rumor control, and actually she takes rumors and spreads them around and gets them in the right place. So she did a great job today.
It's a great.
And her name is what, Joe?
Michelle
Charlie,
Bullard.
did you have any other comments?
Yeah, a couple.
Excuse me 1 second before you go. Let me mention something on the offer that Commissioner Odom made, people with equipment. I would seriously, and I have some experience in this area, I would seriously recommend that folks who may be anticipating getting some relief from FEMA and others be very careful about what they do and how they do it and when they do it. I will tell you that FEMA can be very contrary, and when they come in, there's an order in which they expect things to be done, and you have to have an accounting of what action you've taken when you start applying for aid and all that. So I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a great idea, a wonderful idea, but just have a program in place or method in place to account for it.
Well, the reason I made that comment is we were walking Saturday, and several elderly people that have heart problems and stuff like that, can't even pick up limbs, you know. If they need help, then we need to find some help for them, you know. And
Oh, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying,
be
for their
careful.
own benefit,
Yeah.
yeah, make sure you know what you're doing, because FEMA comes in and does their own evaluations.
Charlie?
I don't know, Robert. I do have one thing. I would really like to see us get together with Central Electric and make it pretty clear to them that anytime we have an emergency in this county, they need to have a representative here, not on the phone.
We did not have very good communications with them. I agree with that.
I'm really disappointed with that.
And
I
once
mentioned that a year
we will,
ago when we had an outage. They need to have some way to communicate.
That's
with
right, because this telephone system with, you know, the voice messaging doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to see that we, from the county, we say, hey, you need to have somebody here.
Well, I would say that David McNeil with Progress Energy was
Yeah, he was
right on
great.
top of us
Yes,
from the
sir.
very
Yeah.
get-go. So
He was
hopefully
appreciated.
we can encourage Central Electric to get somebody in that type of position that we can get in contact with.
Samaritan's Purse just set up a command center for their efforts at our church, at New Life Praise Church, and they said anybody wanted to volunteer, that they take them with their groups, and I guess they're working with.
They made contact with the EOC today, and
Yeah.
we've heard nothing but really good things.
Yeah, my
about
wife spent all day going out shopping for groceries for them, so I haven't seen her. But anyway, just let them know that they're there. I met with Youth Council last Thursday, and I was impressed with the young people that were there. The way they handled themselves, the amount of public involvement that they're doing. They're going to be part of the group that goes over in East Sanford to help refurbish some of their properties and houses and stuff like that. They're already planning to do that. Lisa Price and Karen are really working hard at, you know, those young people getting involved in the community. I made an invitation, is that maybe on May the 23rd, at the beginning of our meeting, and I talked with Linda about this, is we let them come in and sort of open the meeting for us. You know, sit up here with us and open the meeting, just to give, you know, them an idea of what goes on, and not keep them up here, you know, past the, say, consent agenda or something like that, but at least give them the recognition that they deserve for all the work that they're doing. And they were really on fire about this East Sanford project, and they're trying to get all the other people that they can involved. They do trash cleanup down after the art thing. A lot of other different projects. They're planning to start a garden for sort of like a victory garden, if any of you remember that far back, but where they're going to raise a garden and go, you know, needy people and vegetables out to them. So anyway, I just thought that if it's okay with the board, we could bring them in, let them sit with us for the opening ceremony, and then if they want to stay, fine, you know, out there, then that's fine.
Is there a legal problem why they couldn't do that?
I think you can have them help you open the meeting, and you can stand behind them and tell them what to do. But they can't vote on anything.
Right.
But sure, they could help us, and probably lead us in prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance and call it to order and get it going.
Mr. Hayes?
Oh, a couple of items. Sympathy, of course, goes to all the people that were affected in this tragedy. Someone said, and you may have heard this as well, that the track of the tornado went about 3 miles to the one side of Sharon Harris nuclear power. And that's sort of a sobering thought when you think what would have happened had it targeted that particular area. And like most of you, I was touched by many calls from people around the country, states all over the place where I have friends, and I'm sure the same would be for you, where Lee County and Sanford were very much in the news, and a lot of concern. So that's kind of touching that people knew about this and were very moved and hoping that the damage was minimal. And then finally, I'd like to put a date on your calendar. May 25 is the County Assembly Day in Raleigh for commissioners. And the good news is that the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners has again waived the registration fee, so there will be no cost. This is about a $20,000 to $25,000 waiving of the amount of money that they normally take in, but they are in fairly good shape and felt that this would be very much worthwhile. And of course, they do encourage all commissioners to come to Raleigh on that day to meet with the General Assembly and to be a part of that activity. More information will be coming our way, but the day is May the 25th, and pre-registration has to be by May the 18th. So something to look forward to. It should be very interesting with what's coming together about that time in Raleigh. That's all.
Mr. Pascal?
I'd like to echo Mr. Odom's comments. I think we need to keep these people's prayers and thoughts.
Yeah. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Slam that gavel.
I meant to tell you, Madam Chair, you did a good job training the Vice Chair how to slam the gavel.
Yeah, he was loud.
Great job.
He was good.
I guess 10 o'clock.